Hello, everybody. Welcome to Marquee Gaming tonight on a Thursday night, which is crazy. We never do Thursday night streams because we're typically over on Bardic Dice's channel. But hello, welcome in for our Beacon's Aura Epilogue session as we wrap up our loose ends, say some goodbyes to our character, answer some questions, find out maybe what happened to him post-campaign. So I hope you enjoy this. Come along for the ride. And also, yeah, the Q&A will be later after the epilogue stuff. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Rachel is going to be monitoring it, and I'll do my best to look at them too as a backup. But we'll hopefully answer questions, as many as we can, at the end. Stay tuned for at the end a special announcement that's coming up. So, but hey, let's just start off with our intros as we normally do. Let everyone introduce who they are, who they played, and then we can get into some epilogue.
I like that. Who played?
Yeah, I know. It's past tense now. It's crazy. Rachel, why don't you kick us off, starting us off with your character?
Okay, hi, I am Rachel, also known as Pip400 Art. I post my stuff over on Instagram and Twitter at Pip400 Art. I usually will stream here on Mondays. Since Monday is like around Christmas time, I'm gonna have family over. I will not be streaming art on this Monday, but January 1st or 2nd, sometime around there, I'm gonna be doing my art giveaway stream. It's where you can come in, you can enter into a raffle, and you might get a free headshot of your character that I can draw live for you. So it's always a fun party. I do it every year. I really like that as a tradition now. So look out for that. I will have announcements in the Discord. In this game that is ended now, I play Karis. Played Karis. She's a 17-year-old shadow sorcerer, very sassy, and illiterate, but also now knows 7 words. So, you know, we got there. We really learned something this campaign.
Awesome. Thanks, Rach. Pass it on down to Kelly now.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I played Raya, the level 17. Yeah, level 17 arcane trickster rogue, and this will be the last time that I almost say shadow sorcerer for like the 900th week in a row. So this will be ending that, hopefully.
It was heartwarming that you still almost forgot your level, though. Nothing changes when some things do.
Well, no, nothing changes. I always forget my level because I feel like I'm like, wow, I don't think I've ever played a level 17 character ever.
Wow,
exciting.
that's super exciting.
Yeah. So sad she only got to be it for one session, but that's okay. Yeah, she went from ex-convict garbage woman to, you know, doing pretty well for someone being level 17. So yeah,
and we'll see where she goes from here.
There we go.
And our final player tonight, Michael, take it away.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael, also known as Bardic Dice, here on most and all of the socials. Usually, tonight, we're on my channel for Fates United, but we more than happily gave up the spot for the epilogue here, and kind of we're at the end of the year for everything anyway with the holidays. So if you want to also follow along our story, it's Thursday at 6:30 Central. They are about to encounter a big backstory battle for Rachel's character and a weird thing of a beholder. Anyways, but you can go catch up on the VODs on YouTube as well as also as some of our old streams like Wild Beyond the Witchlight. That being said, I played and now retiring Mithrinon, a moon elf, half paladin, half sorcerer, good boy, Healy boy, glow boy. Likes to come back from the dead a lot. So
you did come back from the dead a lot.
Glad that he survived those ones.
How many times? 3 times, yeah.
Yeah.
He came back 3 times.
It's a lot of times.
Can't keep him down. Can't keep him down.
Don't you keep up with me?
Oh man. And I am Mark. I am the dungeon master, and the one who is going to be sad to see this story go, but glad that there is more on the horizon. So, let's start off with our epilogue stuff, and just sort of get into our characters. What happened to them post the Beacons campaign. And I'm going to start with Kelly. Kelly, you've been selected to go first.
Yay.
So, I'll just tell everyone right now, I rolled on a chart that I made what would happen. It had heavily to do with what their answer to my last question of like what they felt like their home was, that type of thing. And then it was sort of like a modified teleport like chart that I used to judge kind of where they would end up. So I rolled randomly for everybody and just saw where the dice said people went. And that's kind of how I've done this campaign. That's how I did it for the post epilogue thing too. In very true me fashion. Stick to the dice. So Kelly, you, Raya, you teleported and appeared in a world that was similar in nature to the Beacon world. It wasn't nearly as run down looking, but it had some more modern technologies in it. It definitely was a city that you were in and had kind of a similar feel, but more populous, more well kept. And you arrived there and were able to be reconnected with your family, which included your sister Amber as well.
Okay.
But
now hopefully don't think I'm evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot came to light as a result of what happened. Word spread around about how things happened, how these people ended up here. You were able to convey the story to them. And Amber especially was a lot more open to listening after she had heard about previous that day, actually, you dove on a grenade to save her life.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
she wanted to extend sort of that olive branch and apology for how she thought about you and how she treated you, and hoped that maybe that relationship could be restored at some point. As you all are kind of branching off on this new life in this new world. In that time, you also learn that Ezhil is in this world, as he kind of latched onto that message that you kept saying you were alone a lot. You're kind of that person who is always on their own. And he was just like, I want to be that person who can help not be, or help you not always be that alone person. And he said that if you stayed friendship, that's totally fine. If you guys would just remain friends, he would be okay with that as long as you weren't alone.
Okay.
And as well, in kind of the gathering of these random individuals who are coming into this world, you learn that Carter arrived as well. Carter also came into the same place as you. So, what would Raya's goals be, sort of with this world set before her?
I was thinking about this, and I think that what I said before sort of rang true in the last session. Like, Spire was very inspiring to her, and so I think that like I or she would probably try and help people who were sort of where she was when she started out, and how like she was given a chance, you know, to get some skills and like be given an opportunity to prove herself, even though she had sort of a checkered past, and maybe like form some sort of like organization or something that was kind of inspired by Spire to like help other people who were sort of down and out, and maybe even include like you know, Carter in that, and also inspired by the Iron Fist, where it's almost like a place that can train you, a place that can give you certain like community, all that stuff. So I think that she would try and maintain that in this new world and rope all of her friends who came with her into it as well, if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think for sure Ezil would be willing to help out, and Carter would be interested in helping out too. And I almost imagine you guys combining your efforts to make sort of a community center, like a YMCA type thing that has like
I was thinking like a gym or something.
like a place where people can work out, but also kind of better themselves to take other classes and things. And that's sort of the idea that I figured would be what you all could combine and start working on to create.
And even like I thought too, like if, because like obviously we don't have big, huge missions anymore, but even like little things throughout the city that maybe would be like difficult or people couldn't handle, like even, just like random things that they could, people could be, help out with, and then sort of be in the community and also be seen as something other than what maybe they were before. And so, I think she'd want to give people the opportunity that she had in that case.
Awesome. So a great way to help those who are in need, alongside two others who experience this, and your family is there, of course, welcomes you back in. Do you resolve things with Amber?
I do. Yeah, I think obviously we'd probably be like awkward at first, and it would be a kind of slow going with it and like earn some trust back. But I think eventually they would be able to have a relationship again. And I think she'd be really happy that she was able to save her and that she didn't die in some rather sad way, and they were able to like repair things in the end. So
yes, definitely. So we'll put yours on pause for now, as we're gonna jump over we'll do Renan's next.
Hey.
So Mike, as I sent you, you arrive back among the Moon Elf's original homeland. You arrive there with your father and your sister. Ratha is there as well. And pretty much the entire tribe comes with you as well. You have kind of that whole community that's suddenly plugged back into their origin, their homeland. And you're able to get integrated back in, spend some time with the family that you didn't really get a ton of time with in the campaign, but get to see them. And shortly after you arrive, a couple days later, there's some people who find a roaming traveler in the woods who seems a little lost. Jeremy is found, as he has somehow followed you to the nearby woods where you live, and he kind of gets connected into your tribe there. You reconnect with him there. With this world before you, what would you be considering doing?
So there was a little bit of a shock for him, because I think he in the moment was willing to give that up to kind of stay with Iron Fist and those sort of people. So there's a little bit of shock at first, but then he kind of goes into like helping his family and helping them get settled, and especially when Jeremy comes by, there's like a big distraction there of kind of integrating him not only into the community but into his family. I think Jeremy quickly becomes a younger brother to him. Question for you, Mark, because I don't think we talked about this. Does he feel like Alasha is there as he spends time praying and the connection with her?
So now being connected with the Moon Elves and feeling that, you definitely feel like her presence is here now. Cool. You learned that like her presence disappeared from the tribe. There were other spirits that they could connect to still, because that's kind of how the culture was, but the primary one, Alasha, was gone, and you returned that to this people.
So I think for him, he would spend a good couple months integrating, staying with his family, enjoying like kind of the late nights, just fishing on the coastline, knowing there's no real threats hopefully out there. But there's like that pull at him, and he's really curious about the Sun Elves too. So after he gets Jeremy integrated, and there's a couple months and spending time, he's going to start making sure Roth and all them are settled. He's going to take time to travel, look for the moon or the Sun Elves in the area around, kind of understand this new world he's in, trying to reach out to them, see if Gwen's there, mainly trying to establish a connection between them and try and keep that peace that they were working on to hopefully unite them into one, or at least in my mind is, even if the Moon Elves are here and Sun Elves are here, that they can establish some sort of center place similar to the church and have it be like a central location where anybody could come as just a place of refuge and peace and healing. But I think the biggest thing for him as he's getting settled, and depending on how that goes, he's just constantly praying to Elisha because he doesn't know what happened to his friends, and that's not really allowing him to settle well. So he's praying to find a way to hear from them and get a message out to them.
All right. One thing in the time that follows, you begin to notice is Jeremy seems to have a little crush on your sister.
Handle herself. Approved for sure, but definitely sat down and said you both got to earn it and grow up first.
400 times awkward, like he usually does.
Yep, 100%. Oh, you know
hey,
it.
at least it's not a Theron, so.
Yeah.
But he would for sure. I think he'd find it really cute.
But yeah, you can begin that journey in trying to figure out. You find out that the Sun Elves are actually quite far away. They're on this plane, but they are across the world, pretty far away. It's sort of night and day differences where they are in the world. And the journey definitely seems like it's kind of a major one to embark on. But you can kind of work up to that, build your plans to get to that point.
I think eventually it would be bringing his sister and Jeremy and venturing with them to go find them.
Okay.
Once they're ready to do that, yeah.
What a fun crew.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun crew.
I was thinking about this because I was like, at first I was like, oh, he's super happy to settle down. And then the more I thought about it, every night there's just a little bit of Karis pulling at him with that adventuring side of like, no, we gotta go see if they're okay. And like, what's out there and what other gods are here and what other people are here. So there's a little bit of that's kind of, I think, imprinted on him. So I think that definitely makes him to the point where once Jeremy's kind of in with Elisha, if that's what he chooses, or another god or something that both him and his sister are both well enough that they could take that sort of travel, they would once they're established again.
And Jeremy would definitely be very much on board with following Elisha and having that be the direction he goes, following in his sort of.
We would totally heal people along the way and introduce them and get to know their culture. So
following in your footsteps, yes, he would follow Elisha, and that would be his path he would direct himself on. But we'll put you on pause for now, as we're going to jump over to Karis. So Karis, you arrive along with your father amongst the Sun Elves. You have Sabralir there, you have Gwen there, you also find Hibbert has come to the Sun Elves, and Rodden is also there. All of them have traveled to this point with you. As you get kind of the sense that your dad felt like this would be a place you'd be more happy, and stories he heard about the home that his parents had, He didn't think that would be a life for you. He felt like the Sun Elf's life may be more up your alley. Rodden, of course, wants to follow you too as well. And that maybe that line of Sun Elf helped pull you in this direction. Your heritage there helped give this little tug that way. But you're amongst this sort of culture that it's very similar to being amongst the Sun Elves back in the Beacon world. But you're able to get reconnected. I mean, Sabralira has already connections that were here that she is familiar with. She knows them. And she's able to kind of explain what happened, get you connected in, get your father and Rodden and Hibbert all in there as well. And you're able to start getting settled in this world. What would you do with your presented world before you?
A few things I had in mind. I think Karis is one of those people where she is so energetic and thinking about all the things she wants to do that there's not really much time for, like, let's rest. Like, she has stuff she wants to do. And, I know she's always felt weird with the Sun Elves, but I think it's helped that Sab offered her the chief position, and, like, there's just kind of more of belonging there. So she would definitely try to get a little more integrated. Would definitely try to kind of, like, let Zilla and Samo have some conversations, weird ones, ghosty conversations. She'd kind of every once in a while see if Sab wanted to try and resolve things with Zilla. I think, well, and I know you told me I took the soul necklace, right?
You did have that in hand.
Mm-hmm.
You arrived here, it's not there though.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So I think this distresses her a lot, because that's like a lot of the city is in there. And so I think very quickly, she's already wanting to get out in the world and explore. This place has magic, which is exciting to her. And this place is just a whole new, like, you can actually keep going. Like, you don't stop somewhere. There's not an aura where you're in danger necessarily. So I think she would try, number one, to see if she can, like, set out pretty quickly and see, like, what's around in the area, especially because the Sun Elves, I know, were pretty secluded. And every single night, she's trying to pray to this Mr. Acacius guy to please, there is a necklace with soul people out there somewhere. I don't know where it is. And also help Mr. Shaw, and, like, wondering what if her friends are okay. Like, she's just really, like, immediately launches into trying to, like, figure out some of that stuff and see the place around her. I don't know if that's how far you want me to go.
Yeah. So, I mean,
the immediate future.
The initial stuff, I mean, trying to get connected to the Acacius side of things. The elves can definitely guide you in the world to more of a center for those type of religious things, where you can find an Acacius temple there, and you can inform them of sort of that threat. They thank you for that, and they plan to do what they can with it to warn however they can warn and pass that along. So that does happen. You communicate that threat. There is a point where once things start getting a little more settled, Sabralira decides she does want to have that conversation with Zilla. And she wants to have it alone, of course.
Of course.
But
Kara spy on it. Because we know you can.
I know. I don't think I would, because at this point, I'm pretty sure if Sab is around me a good amount, she probably knows I can do that. You know, like before Sab didn't know, so I could get away with it. I don't feel like she would this time around. It would be very tough. She probably like almost cast the spell. It's like, no, I shouldn't. No, okay.
She's maturing even after the game.
Wow. And maybe she established her relationship with Sab where she knows she can like ask her how it went and she'd be honest
She'll
about
probably
it.
be honest.
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Not having to sneak around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Cyberlayer gets plugged back in. She's not the chief here, as this is already like the established tribe, and she just was kind of taking over for that group that went off. But she comes back. She does get some leadership position here, especially amongst those who came back, as there are a bunch of other Sun Elves that did come back as well, and are able to reconnect. You're able to get your father settled, get Rodden and Hibbert all settled in as well, and sort of begin that adventure in life. As you're doing this, though, there is a point where some moon elves and a young human boy arrive to the tribe and are able to get reconnected back with you. You see Renan with his sister and Jeremy all visit to start building that connection between the tribes.
Yay.
Hi. Renan probably is like shocked he wasn't expecting Karis to be there.
I feel left out. It's fine.
I'm back, Ryan.
I'll be like, hey guys, are you there? Every once in a while. Hey, is anyone there?
Just pointing around.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I got is the Karis
All three of us are just pointing around every night.
So, and like, it hits someone else. They're like, huh?
One thing as well that Karis is able to discover in her travels to the city is there are scrolls of sending that are there that you can use to cast spells and connect to other people, potentially even other worlds.
How many are there?
Could be used to connect to Riot, or attempt to at least.
Yes, and I think that, well, first of all, when she kind of like goes out and like looking around in the world, Rodden definitely comes with her, and whoever else wants to come, like if Gwen ever wanted to come or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because she's a pretty experienced magic person, I'm assuming she could probably earn bank at least a little bit, or at least enough to.
There are definitely
purchase.
some small issues that you can get some coin for helping out with, for sure. Yes.
So I can buy them. I can buy like 100 sending scrolls. Not really, but you know, as many as I can.
Yes, you can.
The vendor might be very. You can have
a sending scroll supplier that you just frequently visit, and they're just constantly working on these scrolls and always stressed out because you always want more.
Yeah. So yeah, we definitely, I think, would try to connect to Raya.
Mm-hmm.
Like Karis too would like waste scrolls and then kind of stupid. So it'd be like the poor guy's like making them as like so stressed out because he's like, oh my god,
whatever works, man.
Yeah, a squirrel totally fell out of a tree today and like,
like really
bad. That's like all it is.
Can you at least ask her how she's doing?
No, just gotta tell the story.
But
oh my god.
Through that, I mean, you can definitely connect with Raya and find out that she's doing well, who she's with, what she's doing, and Raya, you're able to learn that your friends are also all right in their own world.
Are we able to like? I guess I don't know if I can ask like. Can I ask them if they're able to like talk to Shaw at all, Mr. Shaw at all, to see if like if we can go to other worlds?
Try to
I
contact
know.
Shaw.
So
I'm sure Ren would too. I mean, he can probably use the scrolls as well.
Yep.
But.
So when you guys attempt to use a scroll on Shaw, strangely, it always seems to fail.
Oh no. That is weird.
Do we like?
Oh,
never mind. I was gonna say, I'm wondering if we get the, like, if there's any way we know, like, if we know anything about these scrolls, but it's like could you choose to not answer, to not like have it go through, or is it like?
Yeah, if we
If it
did
goes
like
through, we'd know.
research into like why wouldn't it work, like could we
Yeah.
find out?
Yeah.
So in your research, you talk to some people who might know some things. They would say there's always a chance if they're on different planes of existence that Idris will fail. There's always a chance that could happen. There are places that maybe have preventative magic, or places where magic cannot enter into. There could be places that are just void of all magic, and because of that, this type of spell couldn't get to them. There also could be places that are warded against these, like there's protections up or barriers that are put in place for this. So it could be a lot of different reasons why. So you're not really sure. You also know that there's a chance that they just could be dead, and they may no longer be alive to answer your message. They also could just refuse your message too and not respond. So it's kind of a mystery what happens to Shaw.
Can I ask a question really fast? I don't know if I'm
Sure.
able to. I know you said that Karis didn't have the necklace that Illuminants had at the time,
Mhm.
but do we, or at least in my world, excuse me, do I see anyone who like maybe it was from the beacon, or like somebody who had like had their soul sucked away, or is it I don't see anyone who I recognize or any
So-
beaconites?
There are an assortment of people who do arrive in the same city as you that are all from Beacon. It's just kind of people who show up that they kind of need that extra support. So there are people, but no one, I guess, of note to you besides
Okay.
your family. And
Like even Wanda,
those-
something like that.
Nope, you don't see Wanda.
Okay.
Oh, no, we saw judged. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
didn't know if
see
it
what
was
You
you're
did
like.
saying.
not, did
Yeah.
not
They
see
were like-
anybody like that, no.
Okay.
I mean, you didn't see a lot of people
And,
judge, but no, you don't see anything like that.
Yeah. And then like do I like are they all okay with me now? Like do we get any sort of sense of like how they feel about what happened, or are they
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if I should wait for that. I can answer it later.
as you guys kind of progress into your stories a little bit further,
Mhm.
Raya, the people in your world definitely sort of are open to hearing your side of the story a lot more, because like you're back here, like people thought this world was destroyed, like no one was supposed to be
Yeah.
alive here, demons were supposed to kill everybody, and they're actually a thriving society. So like your
Yeah.
words sort of ring true to them, and they start realizing like maybe they were tricked, maybe they were deceived,
Mhm.
and being held there, and Illuminants may not have been the best person.
Yeah.
So you are definitely seen more and more as a hero rather than a villain amongst those who were from Beacon.
Crazy. Okay. I don't know how she'd take that. I feel like she'd be like, okay. Like I don't know how she'd feel about that, but yeah. I'm just curious if it was like people were still wary of all of us or our story, but good to know.
Yeah, I mean, the people who are native to the city might be a little more like, these people are crazy, like it's like somebody just showing up and like, hey, I'm a time traveler from the future, let me tell you all. Like, what?
Yeah.
but especially among the Beacon people, you are definitely more connected.
Okay, cool.
But you guys are able to still stay in contact with each other occasionally through those scrolls. One thing that would happen is, with Ren's goal to sort of connect the two tribes a little bit, Rodden actually helps with that and begins to cast teleportation circle every day at one location for a year, and then spends a year with the Sun Elves to do the same thing, or with the Moon Elves to do the same thing, and
Yes.
ends up establishing this connection between the two that's just a permanent place where they can combine.
Can I add to that? As
Sure.
like a third thing?
Yeah.
I would, and I don't know where it has to be in the world, but a third place that we make that's not only for the Sun or Moon Elves, but anyone else that we meet that needs refuge. I would love if Rodden and I created a city called Beacon as like a beacon of hope for people.
So yeah, you continue on kind of that growth and this establishing of these worlds, and create another world called Beacon in sort of a, I mean, it could be anywhere because you can travel there magically since you got super cool Karis and teleportation circles now that you can get around wherever you want to go. But you're able to start making this connection point for everybody and growing that world there. You are able to connect with Gwenestri as well, as she did arrive at the Sun Elves. So she is there and is willing to help out with this whole process too, as she's not a leader. She's not chosen anymore. She's just a member of the tribe.
Okay. So the original tribe takes over, it has their leadership already set up, right?
Yep, it's kind of like you're getting plugged back into each of your respective tribes again. Like you were broken off, but now you're merged back in. So that could be.
Is it like a?
Yes?
Is like a really big like amount of them, or is like? Cause I know like they had like a little village before, but is this like a huge amount of like sun and move elves and stuff like that? Like,
yeah, it's
is it
significantly
an actual, like,
larger than what was in the world. Yes.
It's like
Cool.
technically wouldn't Ren's grandparents and also Sab's mom, they might even be alive just because they're elves and they live for a really long time.
Like you can meet your grandparents, Renan, and Karis, you can meet your grandparents, and I mean Skillen is from there too. Like he can show you around like his home, and
yeah, there'd be a lot of that.
Sab can show you around her home.
For spending a year at each one, that's really cool to get plugged back in.
So I mean, long-term goals as you're doing this, you definitely get it connected that way. So anything, I guess, long-term going out that you guys would want to accomplish? We'll start with Raya again. Anything long-term Raya goals? Potentially, I mean, maybe people in the chat might be wondering what happens with Raya and Ez. Does anything happen there?
Well, I guess that with that question. So my thing was like, I think that I think I even told you this in the chat, was like if anything happened with her romantically, it would be like years down the road. Like basically it'd have to be a very established like friendship first, that she really felt like he wasn't like being weird about or anything. And I think it'd be like after she were able to like heal more with her family, and after she could like kind of reconnect with people again, and also like really be part of a, because even if she was part of her own little community before with like the Beacon babies, I think like being part of a community as a whole would be a very different experience, and like actually having some respect and stuff would be very weird. So I think that would all have to happen, and then maybe she could like, and I think at that point then maybe like she would be like, all right, I can consider it, because he'd been there for a long time. She like trusts him and stuff. So I think that would probably happen eventually, but definitely not for quite a while.
Have to be a patient man.
Yes.
Correct. And also like a person, like I think if he really didn't, if like she could sense her high insight that he really did mean that he was like okay with a genuine friendship, she'd be like, okay, yeah, like he really just cared about me as a person, not like in some weird way. And so yeah. And then in terms of like long-term goals, I think like, yeah, just trying to sort of take up what Shaw had going, which was like kind of creating teams of people that could like help the city and help people, and yeah, make, and obviously like yeah, and like try and make it a thing where like they were able to yeah, just help the city that they're now in and like be part of that community, I guess. So that'd be more the long-term goal.
So yeah, Ez definitely had some genuine feelings for Raya. They weren't
he seemed like
weird ones.
Yeah.
And he is a patient man, being an elf. He can be very patient. So he would definitely be willing to wait. Did you have a question, Mike? You said.
Yeah, super good question on like their world. So I know like Beacon felt like, or our world felt like it was something transported away, or like it was made, had a barrier. Is that like in their world, do they have like a crater somewhere where he took away a world, or did he like remake a world?
It's a good question.
So there's no crater in Raya's world. That's not how it is. You just arrive as people who arrive there. There's nothing, no landmass, nothing like that arrives.
And am I able, like, or is Raya able to like see family that like her parents knew, like grandparents and stuff like that? They're there and like, or no? It's been too long.
You want to roll for that? Give me a d20 roll. It's pretty high up there because it's been 42 years.
Okay. So 42. I don't know if they're long. Have longevity.
Let's see what you rolled.
I got a 9. So
okay.
not.
By this point,
yeah, no.
it's just been too long. But
okay.
Yes, there are other ancestors who kind of through your parents, because your parents are actually both from here.
Yeah.
They were teenagers when they left this world. They're able to kind of connect you with some extended family that was still here from their
Were they
world.
just considered missing for like this whole time, or were they?
Yeah, they're presumed dead, missing, gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no one knew what happened. Everyone's like, oh, they're just gone. Like they just didn't know what happened to them, or
yeah,
crazy.
People randomly disappeared and came back all of a sudden 43 years later. So.
That's so insane. Okay. Yeah.
42 years later. Yeah. So.
And I guess in terms of like long-term stuff, like yeah, would Amber be like willing to like just obviously she was one of the leaders, I guess, of like the oh my god, I just forgot. I'm sorry. Not roaming rats, the
Lightfoots, yes.
Is she wanting to like help with like my stuff? Is she like, do we have a good
she would definitely
relationship
be interested in helping out with that as well. Just because she wants to offer her skills up for something that's beneficial. You learn kind of like she did look up to you a lot, and the reason why she was so hurt is because she felt so betrayed by things you've done. But that like I want to look up to you mentality never left. Like she always had that. It just was so much anger for that betrayal feeling, but now that that's kind of been resolved, it's kind of returned back to that like, okay, I feel like I can follow your footsteps a little bit here.
Okay. Yeah. And are her parents like happy to be back in the like world they came from? Like, or is it weird for them? Like, are they?
I mean, it's weird, but it's more of a home, and it's more home feeling to them than what Beacon was.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Yeah, I think also in terms of sending scrolls, like, does she just have to wait until Ren or Karis like send for her and she can contact them, or is there any way for her to contact them too?
So that's the interesting thing, is your world is not really magical. Like, you have magic abilities still.
It's okay. It's just
but
so she can do crazy things.
Yeah.
Everyone's like thinking that's
Alright.
weird.
everyone is just like, you are insane that you have this magical powers.
Okay.
So that's definitely something that is impressive to people.
She really is the Shaw of this world.
Yeah, I guess so.
I love that.
I
Yeah.
had
love
no
that.
idea. I'm good with
Trickster
that.
rogue too. It makes sense. You got the wizard
Yeah.
spells. Let's go.
So you definitely have that kind of presence in the world, is the weird person who has magic but who's trying to better everything around her. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was curious.
So yeah, that's kind of the future for Raya. Yes, you do wait until sending scrolls come, but I mean, you probably get them a lot from Karis. Like, she's probably
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, I mean-
probably too much. Like, there might be times where it's like, Karis, can you give me a week? Like, it's just.
Yeah, I can't talk for a while. Thank you. That's nice though. I feel like she'd really appreciate that and like be always wondering like how her other Beacon babies were, and especially like wanting to updates on like how everyone else is doing. So I feel like she'd be happy with that.
Or like you'd be hanging out with Carter, and then all of a sudden he'd be like talking in his head because there's sending scroll going on to Carter.
Yeah. And Carter gets them too. He's like, oh, he barely wanted to answer the phone. I feel like a sending scroll would be more annoying.
Carter's probably constantly annoyed at us.
you feel like a lot of Carter's sending scrolls failed.
They just don't work. That's
Carter,
so
they're
funny.
100 gold.
Especially if they're like expensive and difficult to get, he just doesn't bother answering. He's like, I don't want to answer this. That's so funny.
So good.
I love that.
So him, I love it.
Yeah.
But you're able to grow old with Ez, live out the rest of your life making a difference in the world that you live in.
I'm happy with that. I think that's good.
I
And
love
then
that.
sort of
Yeah.
the
I'm
combined.
happy she didn't die.
Yes, definitely.
Cute.
It's this close, but
Yeah, too close.
the combined efforts between the two elf tribes, creating this new beacon center point in their world. You guys are able to help keep this world safe, as there are more threats, more magical things, more fantasy setting type events happening in this world. It's a little bit of an adjustment, I think, for all of you, because it's not the
There's
world.
no phones.
There are no phones here. I know,
No.
crazy.
We have sending. Gareth, we are the phones.
I like texting hi.
I'm dying. It's, you know, one of the small things was if Ren hadn't come across Karis, he was going to leave hi in all the books around the world as he's going to learn about the world. Just leave these little highs like she did for Rodden. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking of.
The long-term things for Ren. What's Ren's long-term future plans look like?
So especially that they've been able to catch up with Rodden and Karis and all them and establish everything, catch up with Raya. I know I had talked to you about this. So now that we have the scrolls, does Ren ever have a chance to switch out a spell, or is it always dependent on the scrolls? Curious.
For ascending, are you asking?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's a lower level spell that happened. You could switch that out in one of your spells.
So Raya, yes, you would get a weekly sending, whereas
Okay, good. That'd be nice.
This is more crazy, but this is more of a like established one. Once they get everything established, I think Ren would still want to adventure for a shorter while than he had if he hadn't met up with anyone and heard from them. So I'd say like 5 to 10 years of just exploring the world and understanding what this world means and what gods are there and what the places are. But he would focus on writing. He would become an author. Because he's all about being a book. So he all about reading books. So he would become an author and write the story of what happened, so it's never forgotten. And then spread that out to the different temples to make sure if Illuminance ever comes back or someone tries something similar that people have their eyes out.
That's cool. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he would travel for a bit, probably with Karis, knowing she still wants to explore and stuff. But I think way sooner than Karis would. Once he just feels okay with the world, find his way back to Beacon 2. Settle down with Gwen. I rolled for it. They'd have 3 kids. And especially since their age is the same, right, Mark? If I am understanding, their aging would be the same versus everyone else, yeah. So they'd have 3 kids. I think he'd become an author and create a library. And then the only long-term goal he would have in his longer life as being like an elder-ish would be just making sure that the cities are guarded and that everyone in this world knew that anyone who wanted to come here could be healed, as like a safe place. But I do think he would reach out and try and see if there is magic anywhere that anyone knows to transport between worlds to one day visit Raya.
That'd be nice.
And let Carter and Rodden and Karis meet up again or something like that. So that would just be research. I don't think that's ever in his own magic prowess, but he would see if someone out there knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Since they know that the world's out there.
Yeah. The one difficult thing is there's not a lot of access to planar travel between worlds in general. Especially in places that aren't as established. So unfortunately, there is no connection that happens between your world and her world.
I think he would just make sure that any research that they had was written down, and maybe future generations if that ever happens. But like I said, just wants to collect knowledge and books and make sure people just don't forget what happened. So he's happy with that, though. He'll still send the message and sending and stuff like that. So.
Yes, definitely.
Also, I'm sorry. Is it? Can I guess Raya would also ask like if Acacius ever, like if anything we ever found out like what happened with that, or if there's any.
He responds.
Yeah.
Was there anything with that?
As far as you know, kind of with that check-in that Karis did there, it just sounds like it's a threat that's gone. You guys dealt with it. They don't really sense anything coming from it. They don't really realize that there's any other threats out there. So it seems like you definitely handled this threat upon Illuminance.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, settle down with Gwen, author Ren, and have those kids. So
I got shot in the knee, stopped adventuring, like Shiv said. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Spends his time fishing after he gets his
Last straw.
bad knee. Yeah, that's it, guys. You know what? You'll have fun. You're old enough now.
Last week I was thinking about quitting, and I thought, no, I'll go a little bit longer. I should have just quit when I thought about it last week.
I sneezed when I was sleeping, and I said, I gotta go home. It's time for me.
There would be a wedding of Jeremy and Valissa as well, as the young love continues on.
She ever fully turned into a wolf, or is it just her hand?
It fades over time, actually. Her hand thing.
Okay.
For Ratha too?
So it's interesting. Hers sticks around.
Interesting. Okay. So it wasn't like a complete transformation or something.
No, it's sort of a partial one that fades. It didn't really stick, and over time it goes away.
Jeremy only got scratched once when they were in an argument, and then it faded out. Shield of Faith.
But yeah,
Cool.
That's kind of that one. As your father continues to grow older, Ratha helps out with the tribe as well, and you guys kind of have the center point that's a connector between the two tribes. And then Karis, you have your life for you. What would you like to do with your long-term plans?
Well, one thing she said to Sab near the end of the game was she was really interested in trying to explore the world so that she could come back and like bring new things to the people that lived there. And I think she definitely does have like that part of her mom where she wants to see everything. And I think the possibility of a new world with like all these different races and magic and gods and cultures, like same thing as Ren, is like she wants to see it all. Like she wants to see all of it. And so I think she'd adventure probably her whole life, I would say, just because that's always like something she enjoyed doing. Also, I feel like she would every place she'd go, she would like collect a trinket from so that she could teleport. So like eventually she really could, I feel like, make bank by like teleporting people to places if they need to. She has like a coat, full of all like her trinkets. Like it's great.
But wait, question. How would she label them? Because if she read now, would she label all these?
Does she learn?
She does. I mean, the thing with Mr. Shaw made her feel like she wanted to learn in honor of him, and so I think she would she probably tried to like get other people to teach her, but once Ren's back, like it's Ren's sole duty now to teach her how to read. And she'd read that book of Shaw's like from cover to cover over and over again. And other books too now, and maybe even when she's like 30 or something, reluctantly admit that maybe reading is a good thing. But it's
especially if she had all these trinkets, like you'd have to label like what place they were from. They're labeled. She will use pictures for so many of them, and then she's like, okay, wait, I maybe need to like realize. I don't know if she'd.
Yeah, no, she
reluctantly
does.
Love that.
I think the fact that they never heard anything about the necklace and they never heard anything from Shaw really doesn't sit well with her. I think that's the only one thing of like that just she's never able to give up. I think she probably pesters Acacia's temples a little bit, especially because it's like this is not like the threat isn't over because there's a necklace full of people, but if there's nothing they can do, I think it's more just seeing what she could do to do anything if there is anything for Shaw. She might eventually realize there isn't anything she can do, but it's just it never rests well with her. That being said, though, there's still a lot of like moving forward. She, like I said, the exploring aspect is really fun for her. Like she did promise her mom that she would show her all the places. So that's what she does. She makes sure that her dad is like well situated. She buys, now that she doesn't owe a debt, she buys so much crap. And Samo gets so many like useless presents probably, and just yeah, everyone gets useless presents. She buys that. I mean, she just like spends her money so fast, it's ridiculous. I also, yeah, I think her and Rodden would definitely end up settling down at some point, although I think they would probably both keep that adventuring lifestyle together. And I would say they would have one kid, and that child would be named Shaw.
Aww.
Oh, I want to say too, I don't think Ryan would have any. I think she'd be child free. I don't think she'd have any kids.
All right.
I think she'd be like an old like she'd just be working like. Actually, I think her
33.
I think the Shawness would come through in the workaholicness, where it'd be like, "Yep,
I can see that. Yeah,
focus on my career."
Raya becomes the new Shaw. There you go.
Yeah. So somewhere I'm like, I feel connected to him in my workaholic. Staying at the office for ungodly hours.
All right.
Actually, yeah, even in my in her technology world, is there any way like she finds ways to like, I don't know, communicate with Shaw at all? But yeah, still no.
Yeah.
Magic.
Again, there's nothing that seems like a connection to Spire or to Shaw. Anything that you can pick up on in your world.
Okay.
So yeah, you can hear updates from Karis and Renan about that too, but unfortunately, it just kind of seems like this guy who made a big difference in your life for 3 months just disappeared.
That's why I love that you name your kid Shaw. It's very nice. I think that's very.
Yeah. Thanks.
But you wouldn't call him Mr. Shaw. His first name's Mr. Middle name's Shaw.
When I told Mark that, he's like, "Oh wait, you wouldn't name the kid like Willis because that was Shaw's name." I'm like, "No, he's not Willis. He's Shaw."
Yeah.
He's Shaw. That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's Willis?
Yeah, who the heck is Willis?
Who's Willis? We don't know who that is. It's
I don't
Shaw.
know, Willis.
But yeah, all of you guys have a much quieter life after those 3 crazy months. Settling down in your different places, helping where you can, dealing with much lesser threats as you go forward. Questions still in your mind, though, maybe about what happened, the truth of some of the things. But our Beacon babies truly can rest on the fact that they did prevent potentially a major catastrophe from happening.
Yeah.
And the story lives on in a book written by a lone elf
I like that too. It's very nice.
named Mithranon Renan.
It's so cool.
But yes, all of you have your different legacies you carry throughout your life and major impacts you do on your world.
Oh, Mark, I was gonna ask you one thing.
Yes.
I forgot. Would she have found anything that could have like bettered the Sun Elf tribe and the Moon Elf tribe? Like, is there any like exploration stuff that would like benefit?
I mean, there's probably a lot of ways you can help out with finding different resources, connecting them to other places in the world to like gain more resources and trade.
Like trade and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
There's definitely ways that you can connect all of
do
the
teleporting.
elves, so
I feel like you become like the queen of transportation and like merch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You were a
I
train
had a
conductor.
question. So Renan's gonna settle in Beacon too, because as much as he loves the Sun and the Moon Elves, he never still feels quite like they were still here, and he loves getting to know them, but I think he wanted to start something new. Where's Karis and Rodden and Samo? Would they be in the Sun Elf, or would they join them in Beacon too? or somewhere else?
Yeah, where would Samo be first of all? Because where would he like? Like, she would just want whatever he feels most comfortable with. Even if that means settling in like a human city, that's fine, but
Yeah, I think for Samo, he would probably be okay with going to Beacon. As it's a little more of a open world. It's kind of newer to, less kind of, oh, this is super ingrained culture, like this is a culture that you guys kind of create. So I think he would feel a little bit more connected there. Hibbert would stay with the Sun Elves, though. He would stay there and want to kind of continue that connection to Grathgore that was established and help out there, as would Sabrelaire. She would stay with the Sun Elves and continue her kind of helping out in that community.
cool. Yeah, I think when it comes to Karis, she's just bopping around all the time. I don't know if she, unless Rodden wanted to settle somewhere, I feel like she would really like just kind of going all over the place. And obviously wherever Samo is home, you know, so.
Do you have like vacation homes just everywhere?
Is Samo from our world, or is he from somewhere else?
Samo's not from your world.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, you guys can definitely travel around. Rodden would be on board for exploring. He likes exploring.
Especially when it's not so dire now.
Yep.
We'll take the kids on Karis's random vacation homes for, summer school.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys all just continue your lives and make your differences and cement yourselves as major players in the world around you. So.
I just want to say also, I'm very happy Ren's not like deceased during this. He
Yes.
way
I
sadder.
know, it'd be
Yeah.
so sad.
Yeah.
Hey, rest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ren's dead. No.
I have flowers on my grave. That's like, that's all you can hope for.
But yeah,
Oh,
that's our epilogue for our players, their characters.
babies.
As we are saying goodbye to these three wonderful characters and the amazing things that they've done, going from little babies to beacons of hope, beacon
adults.
amazing,
Beacon adults.
Beacon adults.
beacon elders. I don't know, but
We still
Beacon
fail stealth rolls when we're coming into meetings.
yeah.
Oh man.
But we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to jump into some questions about the campaign, about things for the characters, and we're going to learn some information maybe that some of you have wanted to learn. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat or in the Discord. We have a question thread in the Beacons Aura channel that you can put questions into. So get those in now, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. But stick around. We'll be back shortly. We love y'all.
Woo.
All right, everybody. We are back from our break as we are about to enter into our question time. I'll just tell you all right now, I'm very secretive. So there may be some questions that I will not answer.
Very secretive.
And you'll just have to live with that. So
You remind me, not that this is like somewhat of a niche reference, but it reminds me of was it Voyage of the Dawn Treader when Aslan is like, you can't know what would have happened. I feel like you're Aslan in the situation where you're like, you can't know what would have happened. All you can know is what like happened. So I always feel like that's what you after we finish campaign, you're like,
So
no.
funny.
it's pretty rare when
So
I
good.
answer like, if this would happen, what would happen? Like I'll do it sometimes, but a lot of times I don't do that. So, but it depends on if I feel like it's okay to answer or not. But
Okay.
we're gonna get in some questions. We have some questions about story stuff, so I think they'll be a little heavy for me to answer, but we may get some perspectives from other players on some of them as well. We then are going to kind of, I think, circle around and do DM questions versus player questions and kind of intermix them so we get everyone involved. And Rachel is going to be my moderator for this because I talked a lot for the epilogue and I want her to do some stuff too on our channel. So Rachel, if you're all set, why don't you kick this off our question and answer part of
You
tonight?
have to do it in Kara's voice.
Okay, Mr. Mark. Let's see what.
She's illiterate, so try and sound everything out.
Okay.
You're shooting.
So, actually, so we're gonna start first, with story questions from Mark. So I think actually Ange wrote a good one that kind of sums up and might answer a few other questions.
Sure.
So out of the entire campaign, what was something you either had planned to happen but didn't, or conversely, it was something that you didn't plan to happen but it did? Is there any like notable things that come to mind with that?
So this kind of answers I think a few questions, because like one thing that I know Mike was curious about was the airship. I had plans for that I threw out very early into the campaign and just was like, this is just gonna be something that they're building on the side and it's its own little thing. But I threw that away, and I'll use that stuff maybe in a future campaign because it's I
was waiting for the Nick Fury and the whole airship thing to come in somewhere.
It just felt like it was moving too fast to try to get airship going by the time like our plot would get to the point that it was at. The plot just flew by, and I was like, it doesn't make sense for this airship to ever be built in this timeline. But there is an airship out there somewhere. After Beacon is gone, there's an airship out there somewhere.
Yeah, he just lands on top of the tower, and he's like, I can't do anything with this.
Space, it gets to space somehow. They're like, I don't know.
Spelljammer.
So that's definitely one that I scrapped pretty early on into the campaign because it was going to connect to something else that I had a plan for, and I'm just like, this seems like way too complicated, but I'm going to recycle that at some point. So I'm holding on to that one.
Interesting.
Because it's still fun. So I'm not going to go into details, but I had a plan for that I will use at a later point.
Wait, I just thought of a random question, but I don't know if I should send it to Rachel or if I should just
Send it
ask
to me.
whatever we're.
Send it to me because it might already even be in the list.
Yeah, it could be.
I looked through it and didn't see it, but I could be wrong. I cannot read.
Moderator
Really.
dropped the law. Karis.
I'm real life Karis, and I have trouble reading. Hold on.
So I would say it's a major one though that was in there. I had to shuffle around some other plots, which I'm not sure if we're gonna get into that or not. But the order that you guys dealt with things was different than what I originally intended as well.
Oh, interesting.
I thought you were gonna deal with the elves first, then you were gonna go towards the dragon, and then you were gonna go for Boyd. That was the order I thought you were gonna go in.
Oh,
And
really?
I had to switch kind of the two at the end there, and that's why like I had to restat both of those things to make it fit kind of.
Oh,
like
interesting.
Boyd was supposed to be way more challenging, so I had to nerf him, and the dragon was supposed to be way easier, and I had to buff the dragon up. So,
okay.
so
that actually makes a lot of sense.
those switched on me because of the direction you guys went. I didn't know what you were gonna do, but that was what I originally
we
thought.
were going towards the dragon, but then we kind of like ripcorded it.
Yeah, like just I think Karis' resistance of going for her mom led to that just being put on the back burner for the longest time.
And it was Shaw needing to make the serum.
Yeah.
That was the big.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
because it was just like we don't want Shaw with us dealing with this,
Mhm.
you know, the popsicle
So-
thing.
So yeah, a
That's
lot
That's
of
interesting.
that just got thrown to the side. And I was like, that's fine. I'll switch it up. That's totally acceptable. But that's a change I had to
And
make.
Stokes threw you off a little bit too, right?
It did. That was
Okay.
revealed earlier than I thought, but I had to reward you guys as good rolls on that. So that would have been a later reveal. Yes.
What a great twist of Stokes, though. I still, the fact that you made us think that he was like against him and not, and
Yeah.
so good.
That was the big thing. Is like as he goes down, he's going to be loyal to Illuminance and try to throw the blame on Zangul to keep that illusion up, and it worked. So.
Are you gonna
It's
talk
super
about at
weird,
all
too.
Stokes' ally that we never got into?
Doris.
Yeah, you can talk about that because the next question was, well, first of all, did you feel like you answered that where stuff that happened that didn't, all that stuff? Okay.
I feel like I answered it.
So what was your original plan for Stokes or
Oh,
any
okay.
of his allies? Which was one of the questions.
Read
I
the
mean,
answers.
with Stokes, he was going to sort of lead you on the road to fight Zangul. Like that was his original plan. Was he's gonna kind of push you in that direction, and that was gonna be your focus. Fight demons, go explore outside the city, and fight off these, and eventually go to fight Zangul if you made it that far. So
Because
that-
Zangle was like a open detractor. Is that like why that was?
You guys just connected to sort of the rune aspect of things a lot more. So that's what you were hunting. That's what Stokes is trying to get you away from, though. So like that, like it was this weird thing. So once that got cut off, there was nothing to stop you from pursuing those things. But he would have been sort of like, hey, you work for Spire, you're going this direction type of a deal. Or we're going to take away your injections. Like that was his role,
Yeah.
was to keep you off of Illuminance's trail as best as possible.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Interesting.
And the ally, Doris, she's the one who dropped off those slugs for you guys at the elves that one time.
Oh,
That's who that is.
really? Wait, why did she
Uh,
look like a demon?
Because she is a demon.
Oh,
Like Stokes, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Doris, the demon. That's nice.
So she's somewhere out there. You guys didn't kill her.
She's out
so,
there. Yeah.
Mhm.
she's somewhere
That's
out
so
there.
true.
But yeah, that's
Awesome.
her.
Kelly just asked a question. Actually, the
just
good
thought of it,
question,
sorry.
Kelly. I forgot. Who is Flowen? Who
Is she a
is
demon?
she? What is that?
Flowin was a demon trying to trap
I
you guys and
figured.
draw you away. So
I literally was like, I feel demon about that.
Oh, yeah.
I figured because especially after this
100%.
Moon Elves, after the Moon Elves, we have no idea how that is. We've never heard of that. I'm like, there's just not some random kid who no one has any
Is
idea who
that
they
the
are.
moon
It's
elf
definitely-
with the weird
child.
spider thing? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
It was the child who was trying to like, oh, you need to come over and like be alone. I want you alone. I was like, that's definitely a demon. This is
Oh,
demon
yeah.
activity.
There's a good like 60% of Ren that was like, this is a demon, but if it's not,
Yeah.
I'm gonna feel
It's
so
not-
bad.
Yeah, I can't
This poor
remember.
child in the woods.
I can't remember what type of demon it is, but there's a demon that shape changes and
I
captures
figured.
stuff as like a spider's web. So like that's what it was, and just to try and
Capture
trick you
Moon
guys.
Elves.
Nice.
was it the monster we were fighting, or were there two demons? Because I know like Flown was in the woods and then it showed up behind us. Was it the same thing, or was it two different like creatures?
If I remember
That
right,
we-
it was the same thing. I think it moved
Okay.
around to the
Okay.
other side.
Because yeah, it like disappeared, and then I was like, kind of like, oh, it's probably behind me, but Renan would be looking for this out. Okay.
Yeah, I think it went
Yeah.
across the road up ahead of you guys and moved wrapped around and then
Gotcha.
attacked people. I'm pretty
That's
sure
when
that's
we
what
almost lost Curtis, right?
Yeah, you guys had to
Curtis
flee
was
that
like-
fight. Yep,
Yeah.
that got really rough.
I
Yeah,
totally
that was-
forgot about all that.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so Cringe asked a really good question. How did Illuminance get a shadow dragon to cooperate? Is that a
Yeah.
question you can answer?
It's basically it's mutual goals. That's what it was. Illuminance wanted to take down Acacius, and the Shadow Demon had some vendetta against Acacius and the people of Ahedia, the Heavenly World. So they worked together. They struck a deal. So that's how that worked out.
Are you allowed to say what his role was? Because the Shadow Dragon seemed like he had a specific role he wouldn't talk
Like
about.
a specific plan.
And I was really curious of like what his role was.
Yeah, I think you guys just read into it a lot more. Like he just literally was defend this rune until the harvest, and then we go to Hedia. Like that's his role. He didn't have anything else special.
And the harvest was supposed to be like a superpower Illuminance to get up there and help. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Kill him. Okay. Interesting. So I'll ask Cringe's questions. So they all kind of have to do with what we were just talking about. If the Beacon babies had fallen to Illuminance, how would that have affected campaign 2?
That's a good question. Illuminance would be around still.
Oh, wow.
So,
that'd be scary.
Yeah, there could be some definite fallout after that. That could be in campaign 2, but didn't happen.
Can you imagine us hearing Illuminance, but having to be like, oh, what a great guy.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. There's a new god in town, guys. His name is Illuminance.
Neato.
He sounds nice. I love him.
I mean, potentially, yeah, he could have taken over. Acacius could have been gone. Like, who knows what could have happened? But
yeah.
Yeah, would you have like rolled out a battle, or was it sort of like if Illuminance had won, whatever he was planning just would have like auto killed Arcacius or something like that? Do you know?
I didn't think he was gonna survive, but I would have dealt with that after the campaign if it did happen.
I gotcha. Cool.
Interesting. Nice. Also, Cringe asked, is Boyd really dead? In all caps, mainly hoping he becomes someone's warlock patron somehow.
I hope he's not
agree,
dead.
by the way.
I don't know.
I miss him.
I don't know.
He's one of the...
What happened to Boyd? Oh, man.
I really didn't think I would ever like him, but I literally would love for a character to have him as like a god. It'd be great.
I was thinking about that. That was so cool.
Oh,
He's so like chaotic neutral. I'm like, actually chaotic good. I don't know what he is. He's something, but I liked him.
No, Mark, I know you spent so much time preparing, but I think I'm gonna switch characters.
You're gonna go to somebody who potentially doesn't exist to be your patron?
Yep, totally. Rachel, can you redo the art, right?
Yes, yeah, I got it. I got you.
Cool.
Yeah, good question. Is Boyd out there? Who knows?
That's a good one. I hope we find him. That would be great. I was actually telling Mark, I'm like, if we see him in campaign 2, he would be the most dapper gentleman. Like the way he looks, like he'd be great.
He's like rich too, and like I'm just and name would be like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a B name, like Bartholomew or something. We'd be like every B name we're gonna be like, oh my god, it's him.
Yeah,
him.
I had a list of names because every name I did B-O for like the first 2 letters, every one of them. So I just had like a list of all of them that he would go through. Bobby was on the list. Yeah, I had a whole bunch of things that were B-O names.
So fun.
That's really funny.
Can I ask a quick follow with Boyd?
Yes.
Did he make a deal with the people down in the caves, or what was that? What was the spiel with all that? Or was he just being
do we know
kind?
anything about
that?
He was just being kind to them, honestly. I
told you, I knew he was good.
Like, it's not good. I wouldn't say he's good. He was trying to use as many pieces as he could to potentially take down Illuminance.
Right.
So
that's fair.
So yes, he helped those people, but ultimately
for his agenda.
He wants to take down Illuminance, so like maybe they'd be useful at some point. Who knows? So it's more like preserve everything because maybe it will come in handy type of a thing.
You're bringing in 2 giants to that final fight.
Yeah.
That would have been fun if we didn't, ditch Jonah.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So Mark, you might have already answered this, so we can skip it if you feel like you did. Mike asked, what are some quest lines that we missed or just didn't really get into that you were planning or wanting to get into?
I mean, there are some that I just modified as we went a little bit, just because there were some that I felt you guys latched onto, so I enhanced them. I was like, oh, this is something they're interested in. I'm going to flesh out this a little bit more, make it a little deeper. And there were some that I'm just like, this is something. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, these guys don't seem interested. I'm just going to make it like a cakewalk for them, and they're going to get through it. But
nice.
What was something you enhanced? I'm curious. Like, what was something that we like latched onto? Like, I'm going to make this bigger.
So
you didn't think it was gonna be
the Jarzagon stuff post, like all the slugs things, that's something I enhanced on. That was not my original plans, but it's something I built into it later on to continue kind of that presence of him and what he did, because I felt weird just like to cut that off, and you guys kept bringing it up, and that was the first one you dealt with, so I was gonna like I'm gonna keep bringing this up and like showing the effects that it had, because it was very far reaching, so I enhanced that one. And yeah, that's basically that.
That's a
I have a question.
super quick follow-up with that, because since like I think I was such a late addition to your story and the elves kind of weren't a thing that you were originally planning on, how was that, like, are you happy with how everything integrated and things like that? And
with the Jarzagon stuff?
Yeah, Jarzagon or like the elves, because like I think originally we were all supposed to be humans, right? And I'd kind of pushed for an elf storyline that you didn't have in the world, right? So that was something I had pushed later with my player.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned you wanted to do elf, I was like, okay, sure, I'll just throw that in there, and that's why they came into the world later than the humans did, because of that kind of nod to adding that in to the story a little later. I
just think you did such a great job with that, because I feel like they seemed at first like, okay, they're just over here and this is my backstory stuff, but they integrated into the whole story like really, really well and became like such an important piece. So that was really fun.
I liked them a lot too.
They were fun to implement in there and have a little bit of a different feel to the world than just the people of the city, because it would have been just Jarzagon dealing like with the people in the city, but now it's like, oh, they can do it for the elves. That could be their thing.
What about Karis's mom before I joined? Was that planned at all?
Pre-elf stuff? No, but that was something I got pretty quickly once
fun.
Elves were going to be part of it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like
Interesting.
That. I like you.
Yeah.
Kelly asked actually just now, which I think is a good one. What were the rules for memory loss for the rooms?
Okay.
Yeah, I could not.
So
I was sitting there trying to be like, I don't know what the rule is for this.
If you remember back, every time right before you guys were going to go deal with the rune, I had you guys roll me a d20. And I didn't tell you what it was for.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I just had you roll a d20.
Or sometimes it would be like after when we sleep or something like that. But yeah, it'd be always around it.
I literally never made that connection.
Every time I had you roll me d20, and then I just looked at whatever modifiers you guys had for your saves. And when you got back into the Illuminance aura, that's when the trigger effect would happen. So once you like did it, you all remembered, but then when you crossed back in, like you were driving into the city, and that's when you forgot. This is when you drove into the city.
Or we slept at that house, and then
like in this case, in the very last one, like obviously I rolled high enough, but nobody else did. Or the last one, I think did Karis remember? Who remembered? Gwen remembered. No one else did. Yeah. Like so, it's like if like we like so if we like rolled high enough, then that would mean that we remembered.
Yep.
We had teleported in to do the Iron Fist and the whole Amber fight, and he was like, "Oh yeah, by the way."
Yeah, you guys forgot.
I did not make the connection.
About, Raya?
Yep.
You're like gaslighting you hard with that, like.
There's a couple times before Raya realized that we didn't know where she'd go. Yeah, I destroyed the rune, and like Karis and would be like, "Oh, we didn't really destroy it." And you were like,
"But okay."
Raya just kept talking because I think in the moment it was probably like, "Oh, they might just be denying it or
didn't
something."
Register,
you know?
I thought you were being. I guess. Like in my brain, I was like, oh, you got like they're saying like, oh yeah, we didn't actually like Illuminance is the one who's doing this guy, so we didn't. And I was like, no, but we definitely had something to do with that. So I thought you guys were like negating like responsibility. No, they didn't remember. Okay, now I just
so good. It was so fun watching you do that.
So
that was hilarious when that happened.
I genuinely didn't even know it. I was like, well, yeah, we like that was definitely us. Like, we definitely had something to do with that. Like, okay,
it's
that
like
makes
a good
sense.
2 episodes where I'm like, do you think she'll notice? I don't know.
I didn't notice at all. Sorry.
Yeah, that's really funny.
I was trying to figure out the rules. I'm like, what are the? I'm like, is it like if whoever destroys it is like whoever's in the? I couldn't figure it out. So that makes sense.
Yeah, it was just simply once you guys entered it, and I had you do that roll beforehand, so that's how I knew.
Was it anyone that saw it or knew about it? Did that matter?
It was those who knew about it, like actually firsthand seeing it.
Okay.
So everybody who was present and saw the rune, it would be those people who would have to roll to remember.
Crazy.
And Illuminance made those runes?
Kind of.
Kind of.
So this kind of goes back to another previous campaign, Rachel. This is actually, I could get into that whole thing. I talked to you about Rachel before this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there were four runes, 3 that were placed throughout the world, and 1 that was Illuminance, or on Illuminance. They were placed by a character that actually was part of our other world that we played in, who actually transported a whole island from one place to another plane, and like had this island that would go back and forth between these 2 planes. And it was the character who did that initially that this is like a precursor to that event happening, where he learned how to do this, and Illuminance got him to move this landmass and pin it down. Which, by the way, I was thinking it was fun. I foreshadowed this session 6, the whole plot line. And if you guys want to go listen to it yourself, like back in the days of really poor quality and no cameras, session 6, 1 hour and 15 minutes, they're out in the outskirts with Jeremy. They find him out there as he's going on his spirit journey, and he asks them, "Can you guys help me put my tent up?" And there's 4 posts that you put in for the tent, so this tent doesn't blow away. And that was a foreshadowing for the whole plot, where I know you guys, there's no way you guys are to figure out the spot, but like that's my foreshadowing of
that's fun.
This whole plot
This
is
a
little analogy
all
for it,
4 different things are put into the ground, and if the tent will blow away, and it's the same thing for the world of
and
Beacon.
We saved Jeremy then, and he saved me.
And it was too the 4 people who were there. Melinda was there too, but you 4 were all there. It was meant to be kind of like there's a Renan connected one, there's a Raya connected one, there's a Karis connected one, and there's a Jeremy connected one. And that was the Beacon. So like all 4 of those there.
It was the Rye connected one.
Boyd.
Because
it was your family.
Oh, that's right. I was gonna say. I was like, yeah. Oh wait, hold on. That's Rachel.
I tried to put like that whole foreshadow. Like I knew there was no way you guys would pick up on that and like predict the plot.
Yeah.
But I wanted to put that in there super early, so I put that in there session 6. Almost 100 sessions ago, I put that in there.
That's so good. Kelly, if you had a question about this, you can go ahead and ask it. If it's like in the same subject.
I guess like was what was Boyd's like whole why did he give the money in the beginning when he had us like give that? Was it just to like, was it what we had said before, which was like to influence the building of like the extending of like the beacon or whatever? Was that
you guys figured out that the connection of he gave the money to them so they could fund adding more protections, which meant that your dad could plant the bombs, and it's like this whole
all Rachel.
Plot.
What?
That's all Rachel, I think, right?
I figured that out.
I didn't think of any of that. So
yeah.
So that was the plot line that you guys kind of deliver the first step of it to make the rest of it begin to move.
That's so fun.
So, speaking of being out in that area, what happened to that diamond that Jyleka supposedly gave us?
Did she ever give it? Was she lying?
What happened with that?
Or not?
Red, you're alive because of that diamond.
We're such bad people!
Oh my god!
She gave it to Wanda, and Wanda stored it away. Because she's like, this is
her only diamond.
This will be better for the world. And she put it away, and Jeremy knew about it because he was around at that point.
Jeremy.
So.
Oh my!
And that was their only diamond that they had left.
They were pretty low on resources, yeah. So.
Yeah.
Oh, so Jyleka saved Ren, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're the bad Jyleka.
Sorry, girl. We didn't mean to.
No, she was
definitely the villain in some.
She was totally a jerk.
She was a jerk, yeah.
She was a jerk, but we tried.
Okay, so actually,
fun.
Let's see. Yeah, I'll ask this question from Shiv first. Was there anything big that the players missed that could have prevented any of the huge catastrophes? That's a good question.
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
So,
oh no, do I want to know?
One thing that I think I put in there that you guys didn't do anything about was there's a point where you're going out of the city and you saw Dractos in a cage. Those Dractos in a cage were used to bomb the beacon. So if you guys would have gotten involved in that, they would have lost that method to be able to bomb the beacon by having the Dractos fly in.
I remember having those notes because we got that from that one place we're stuck in, all those notes, and it's just like we didn't follow up on it. Yeah.
So that was one I can think of. That. What other catastrophes?
A lot of like Illuminance bombings and
really
column. A lot of column stuff. Or people like invade. Even at the end of the match when Samo died, because Carter and Rodden like burst into the thing and stuff like that. There's like there's just a lot of like really big moments that ended up badly for us. Trackers being killed. That's another thing Shiv just said.
Yeah.
Me not dying.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. If Ren wouldn't have died, the Trackers wouldn't be dead. They could have stuck around. That was a group I was thinking about doing more with, but once Ren died, it was like, okay, this would probably happen.
Has to be consequences, yeah.
So that was one that just was an unfortunate surprise, and that one in true Ren fashion for death saves.
Actually, I don't think that one was the death saves, right? That was me just getting the thing that fell on him and had the aura attack.
I thought you rolled the nat one though for one of your death saves.
I think you rolled a nat one, but I could be wrong.
Was it for that one? I can't remember.
I think it was that one that you said you got rolled a nat one for.
Maybe it was. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Because that was the first time you died. That only there was the first time you died, you rolled a nat one, and then the last time you died, you rolled a nat one.
The first and last time.
That's true. That makes sense.
I had a random question. I don't know if this is if I can ask it. What was Illuminus' point in bringing Ren back and being nice to just manipulate us and try and make us
So early game, he wants you guys to trust him. He wants you guys to stay with him and protect him and fight against those who are outside, like Column and Zangul. So get you on their side. Also, you're another soul to harvest. If you die, I can't harvest you. So
that's true.
He really was protecting us.
Yeah, he legitimately was protecting his crops, basically. That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
So it was a good thing with bad motives, essentially.
Okay. Got it.
So what would have happened if Column had not died? What would his role have been moving forward if it would have kept him alive?
Sorry,
that's something that you guys could have prevented too a little bit.
I mean, me could have not murdered him.
Hey,
it was a group decision.
Yeah. No, it's fine. He could have helped it, I guess, try to bring the rejects in to help you guys, because once that was cut off, I'm like, okay, the rejects are kind of out of the story now because their head is gone and they're not going to regroup in time for much of an impact for the rest of the story. So he could have been an ally, though, depending on how you guys managed that. But I don't think you guys would have liked him as an ally, probably.
No.
So
I think I would have felt weird, because at least the Sentinels are there willingly and they were fighting for what they wanted and believed in, whereas
he was using such shady methods. It'd feel weird to even use the rejects or anything.
We brought in a demon. That was already hard enough to convince people.
Yeah, the demon was not good in general. But at least the demons, even them, they're fighting for their own reasons.
Freedom.
But rejects would not be.
I threw out an assortment of people that you guys could try to make your allies, and he was one of them. He wasn't the best guy, but could have been an ally.
Gotcha.
I'm happy with that choice personally.
Oh, me too. Yeah. So we're getting near the end. We have about 4 questions left. Not of the story portion. We can move on. But
I did post a column one real quick. If maybe that could be a follow up. But I was wondering.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering what the game would have looked like if some of us had gone with column game 1. Because I know if all of us went, it'd probably look like the time all of us brainwashed. What would you do if some of us went and not all of us?
I don't think all of you would have made it. So, you guys would have all gone one way or the other. I wouldn't have split the party in session 1.
Okay.
So it was either some of you were going to go forcefully, and some were willingly, or the guards that were there were going to like throw you into a room and lock the door so you guys couldn't get out. And you're just like wanting to get to Colin, but you're locked in a room and you can't get to him. So it was kind of like whatever way that fight went, that was where I was going to go with it.
Crazy.
And all you guys saved. So I was like, okay, that's easy. Totally simple. Unfortunately, Carter and Rod both failed though, so that threw a plot line that I did not expect to have to deal with right away into session 1. And I was like, okay, guess we're going there.
Yeah.
So
I remember like being so shocked that Rodden was just out of the game because like I was expecting him to be like the best friend NPC that I like, you know, have ideas bounce off of with him and all this stuff, and then he just wasn't there for most of the game. So
yeah, I thought he would have a pretty good chance to save. And then he failed, and I was like, okay, well, that changes up some things.
Yeah.
Getting him back was a great... Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
Getting back was a great motivator, though, I think.
Oh,
huge
yeah.
motivator,
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
it's
think
again
it
just
changed the dynamics of the group early on with, I know, Ren and Kara especially.
Yeah.
How closely I think the group came together.
I was just adapting to the dice rolls and making a story based off of what you guys wanted to do. So that's all that
fun.
was.
Yeah.
I was just shocked. I was like, I can't believe Mark risked.
Yeah. Like
I think that's all
it
good.
could have been you guys go with Carter or Colin for the start of the campaign. Like that really could have happened.
That would have
Can't
been great.
imagine what that
rough.
looked like.
Oh yeah, it'd be
Crazy.
interesting.
Who would have
So-
saved us at that point?
I mean, Shaw would probably lead the charge to try to
Okay.
get you out, but
I could see that. That makes sense.
Like when a lot of people
you know.
died, but we could have been saved at that moment or something.
Hmm.
Okay.
Interesting. So actually, this I know the answer to this because I figured it out, but I'm going to ask it for viewer purposes.
yes.
This also goes back to session 0, session 1. Why the psychic damage in the battle with Illuminance every time our characters attacked him?
So all of those characters signed a contract when they got their injection, and they didn't really read it super closely, apparently. And they all rolled
No,
pretty
we
badly
didn't.
for those.
Or didn't read it at all.
Or can't read.
I
And
Oh,
think
poor
Jared attempted to
Gareth.
read it
No chance.
the most out of all of us. Was like, sure.
Yeah.
and they got bound into a devil's contract that they could not attempt to harm Illuminance, and every time they did, they took psychic damage. It's like a Gias, but I didn't do as much damage because like that could be really deadly, but
Yeah.
I still did 3d10 for it, so
Wow, yeah, it
Which-
was a lot.
Was Shaw under that
Listen, I
contract
was-
too? If he had, let's say, ended up fighting Illuminate somehow.
that was
Crazy.
under the contract as well.
Crazy.
Anyone under Stokes' leadership, I think, because Stokes
Yep,
was on
Stokes
the,
set it up.
Devil's contract.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So-
I was gonna say, I'm like, how did he sign? Because I didn't trust Illuminance, but
So the whole game, I remember that Mark had us all roll when we signed the contract of perception. All of
Yes,
us
I
rolled
remember
like
that.
under 5 or something.
oh, we did
So
terribly.
We didn't see anything. And then I rolled the highest at like a 7, and I think Mark had mentioned she sees like a flash in the corner of her eye, and like she was in the middle of the city. So later, once we realized Illuminance was bad, I was like, I wonder if that's Illuminance, like if that was some sort of contract thing. But like the whole game, I was just waiting for like something that had to do with the contract to come out, but like I didn't know what it was gonna be.
Yeah, I think I rolled like a 3 or something. I was like, well,
Yeah, we all
I
just
don't know.
rolled horribly.
No idea what's happening. We just like nonchalantly. 'Cause I think
you gave me juice.
Yeah.
I think I had wanted to examine the contract and I'd rolled well
Yeah.
on that.
You had a
But
lot of
then when it
insight,
came to
but, yeah.
but then when it came to the actual noticing of that, I didn't notice it all.
Yep.
So
So
Interesting.
So
That's
good.
fun.
yeah.
It's fun.
that's really
So-
fun. Okay.
What would have happened if Illuminance had died early?
Oh.
If the reject stuff
Mhm.
would have come to pass.
So that would just be one more rune that'd be gone, one more step on the process of like the sky breaking apart,
Ah.
that whole thing. It'd probably been really bad for you guys though, because Zangul would have no idea about the runes, and he
Yeah.
would be trying to get out.
Jump,
So
jump.
all of a sudden, he's the one who's like trying to murder everybody in the city, and that would change it to more of a survival game rather than you guys
Yeah.
kind of figuring things out
Yeah.
and hunting things down. It's more like you're being hunted down and you need to stop this threat now.
Did you expect Zangul to die like that, or were you like,
No, he rolled so bad in the finale. I can't believe how bad he rolled.
He rolled really bad. I was like, he was so good in the dragon fight, and then this fight, I'm like, man, he just
He
ate.
had the Ezreal curse, man. There's
Yeah.
always one NPC every single time.
Honestly, thankful it was him and not someone we actually loved and cared about. So.
I mean, you lost Curtis, but yeah, he definitely could have been around when you broke the final rune. He would just be out there somewhere. So.
Yeah. Okay.
But so it kind of worked out pretty well. But yeah, he rolled so bad on like every save I had to do for him. It was ridiculous. I couldn't believe how bad he did.
Oh my gosh.
Also, I gotta say really fast, I'm very thankful. I really genuinely on the last fight thought that you guys were like freaking out over my not keeping haste save when you wanted me to re-roll my 15. And so I'm very thankful that everybody was like, so I was like, why is everyone like, oh, if I lose haste, I'm stunned. That sucks. But I was like, you want to do it again? I was like, I guess so, yeah.
You sure you don't want to use your lucky feet?
Please.
Oh my god, the DM and both players are doing it.
I was like, staring at you in horror. Oh my god.
For some reason, I don't know why I didn't connect that was like the role I was doing. I was like, oh, okay,
Just
I'll
doing
do
a
it.
con save, it's just fine.
I was like, if I get stunned, it sucks, but like, it is what it is. Never mind.
Oh man.
Yeah. Also, yes, he was a good meat shield. I saw his comments.
He was
a meat shield. He definitely
Thank
was.
you, Zangul. He was good for the
Thank
dragon
you.
fight with that too.
Honestly, great meat shield the whole time.
I don't know if we had won that dragon fight without him. I really don't.
We could not have. No, I
Been
don't
pretty rough, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you said you kind of expanded on this. What was up with the slugs though? Was there any other purpose or like connection, or what was going on with that?
So essentially it's just kind of what I made Jarzagon to be. Is he's a creature that branched out, feeding on other things, absorbing powers, and then like kind of upon its demise, like he dissolved into these slug-like creatures that would combine into being like other kind of threats and would eventually kind of combine together to make another Jarzagon type creature. Like that's kind of what it would end up being. So that's all it was. It's just kind of my lore of the creature of Jarzagon, essentially.
Okay.
You had a theory out there that was like related to something else from another game or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's why I didn't know if you wanted me to ask that here.
I mean,
Mark, but like,
who knows? Maybe it could be connected to nasty slugs that we ran into in another campaign that was eating one of Rachel's characters alive. So
yeah,
who knows? Maybe because that was a Vraxon thing, and a lot of the stuff came from Vraxon. So who knows? Maybe it's connected.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. And then along those lines, what was up with the sponge root actually giving people powers? Because that was what was in the serum, and I always wondered like why.
Yep. So sponge root was Jarzagon. Like you guys were getting injected with Jarzagon, and it was his absorbing various powers. So like the one that was from near the Sun Elves absorbed the dead that was there, and that's why Karis had Raz with her. It's an absorbed individual, and that's essentially what that was just absorbing powers, and then the power that was in that was used by Spire to give people powers.
So
Crazy.
Question about Karis then. Did she die and Raz kept her alive, or was it just a manifestation of the shadow, like sun, like a dead person in him manifesting in the shadow powers that way?
I think that is kind of how I interpreted like the getting one heartbeat per minute thing that the shadow sorcerers get, is like you essentially should have died, but Raz kept you alive.
Oh, interesting.
I always thought that. It was just like, that was the one little piece of red, and I was like, ugh, so glad you're a good person.
Yeah.
But if you turn Katana out, like, keep your friends closer, there was a little bit there with the parasite. He was like, I'm willing to kill her if it like means like making sure she doesn't turn, but like he was always so petrified of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, and Shaw was always such like the way he would deliver bad news. It was so casual and positive. So I think he told her like, yeah, we almost lost you there, but we have great medical professionals. Like it was okay. So Karis was like, oh, okay, whatever. And, like she never thought about it ever again.
I don't know why your heart's only beating one beat per minute, but
well, it's kind of cool. It's nice I don't bleed ever.
Brennan always has the hardest time doing Spare the Dying. It's like, I don't know if she's gone or not. There she is. Okay, no, we're good. Takes a minute to find out.
Okay, so I think we covered most of the questions.
Good, let's get into some player questions. I
So
want
I
to hear
would
some of
love
those.
to shift into some. Yeah, we'll do a few player questions first, then we can bop around with some of your stuff, Mark. But yeah, let's
Bopping
do some
around.
focus on the players. We'll do a simple one first, and Mark, you can actually answer this one as well. Except yours will be a little adapted. D asked, who was your favorite NPC? If you said a family member, then which non-family NPC? So maybe you can give like a family NPC if that's in there, and then not a family NPC. And Mark, who was your favorite NPC to play?
Okay.
Who would like to go first?
Oh, we all are answering?
Yes, all of us are answering now.
Oh.
It's your guys' turn to answer questions. So
We got like a top 3, but they're for various different reasons. Alasha, obviously. I think that just
awesome.
I mean, that just ties into him. But I don't know if I consider it NPC versus patron. But Samo would be like, if you're saying any NPC, I think Samo is one of my favorites. Just all throughout the game, having that tie to him. But then at the end, Jeremy definitely came in clutch. So he was like sprinkled in. But I never really had that like, oh, Jeremy's like, oh, he's a cutie. But like at the end, that's kind of solidified him as one of my 4 favorites. Like, I was hoping that something would manifest in him with the trust that we gave him and the powers that he had. So that was really fun to see it pay off.
Yeah, me too. I agree. Kelly?
I think Carter was one of my favorite NPCs just because he was so like simple and like, yeah, let's do like he was just very goal oriented and I appreciated that. And he was just such a like ally to the end, or he like didn't even care. Like he didn't care about our reputation. He's like, yeah, I don't care. Let's just do this. So I appreciated that. Also, once Rodden got better, obviously, I really loved him as an NPC, and he really was so helpful as an NPC too. Or like his healing for having a no cleric. I mean, Paladin definitely is obviously very helpful, but having an extra cleric was, I think, essential for some of our like wins and stuff. And honestly, Boyd, I loved Boyd. I thought he was great. I thought he was so funny. He was so annoying, and I was so exasperated the whole time. But then in the end, he was just great. I'm sorry, I'm moving our mascot. Yeah, so I think those are my 3 favorites.
That's cool. From me, yeah, my top 3 solidified pretty early and stayed the whole game. With Shaw being at number 1, I love Shaw. And it may have been just, and I think I loved him early on probably because of Karis's perspective of him. You know, he was never suspicious with her, or she never felt that he was suspicious except like a couple brief moments of doubt. But other than that, it was. I don't know. I love how Mark played him. I love that we could bounce things off of him as the party, and he usually would help us like dissect information and things like that. And just was really helpful. Like he always just gave us stuff we needed, and it was never a big fuss. I also love Carter for the same reason that Kelly said. It's just he was sassy and sarcastic, and he was dumb, and I just loved him so much. And then I loved Samo. It was really cool to have like just a really supportive father figure in the game, and someone that wasn't constantly holding Karis back but encouraging her instead. And I just thought that was a really special role. So those are my top 3.
Definitely. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
I'd say Ryan's sister if it wasn't as much time spent with her.
Yeah, she was great.
You did a great job with her.
I of course enjoyed Shaw a ton, like knowing who he was from the beginning too, and just like playing that out. And I mean, Rachel's listening back to some of the sessions, and she's like, "He did this too. That's just like, like yes, I'm so glad."
Exactly that.
Like, so that was fun knowing that the whole game and playing that out and like the weird things he might say. So I had a lot of fun with that. I loved Boyd. Boyd was one of my favorite kind of villains to play. He was so fun to play.
He was such a likable villain. Like he was very understandable, and he like was sympathetic. You're like that's the best villain. Very charming,
he's just-
charismatic, the best villain.
Like, you guys
I don't know
know,
metal, but sure.
you guys know there's another layer to him, but I can't talk
Yeah.
about it. So like that was the fun part. It's just like
yeah.
he's a bad guy, but there there's another layer, and just like that was so good. I
Mhm.
loved playing Boyd.
Yeah.
I also had a lot of fun with Sabralira. I thought she was
Yeah,
super
she's-
fun.
I love Sab.
and
I love Sab.
being kind of this very two-faced character for so long, and then just like her kind of dealing with the fallout of Karis's mom as well was a lot of fun to play out. So
Yeah.
She had a great arc for all the NPCs.
Yeah. They all had a lot of cool development.
so I had fun with Sabralira too. So those would be my three,
Yeah.
I guess.
Nice. So for the players, Lit asks, what was the source of inspiration, like other fictional characters, music, personal experience, etc., for your characters? It's like when you were making them, or as you were realizing they were forming, what was kind of some of the inspiration for you?
In reverse order.
Grace, you're
Yes.
first.
You want me to go? Okay, sure. So actually, Karis came about a long time ago. Like back in probably 2018 was when I first started thinking about her. She was supposed to be a replacement character for another character I was playing at the time, Eve, and she was supposed to. Yeah, I was gonna bring her into that
Crazy
world.
then.
Didn't know about that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Originally,
Yeah.
she was supposed to be a cleric, and the reason why I thought about her was there was a game even earlier that Mark had run where they had this whole quest line where they went into like a deathmatch arena, and it was just so like crazy, and like there's just so much going on, and I loved the idea of like my original concept of her was because of that, and I thought, what if I had a character whose dad fought in a deathmatch arena, and the only reason why her dad is alive is because she can heal, and no one else wants, like no other cleric wants to set foot in here, but like she's here to keep her dad alive, and so she feels kind of stuck to this death arena. And so that was what it was going to be in like the fantasy world.
Interesting.
She was supposed to be older originally. She was supposed to be like in her 20s. She was really different, but that was kind of my base inspiration from it. And then over the course of like creating Beacon and the arena and I wanted a sorcerer, so I switched, and then the scales of the arena went down drastically to just like you just punch each other. But and Karis got very young, which I like where this direction went way better. The other one would have been a lot darker, I think, and I don't think we needed more darkness in the party that we had.
Interesting.
In the world. So, but yeah, so that was my original inspiration, was another game of Mark's Deathmatch Arena. So
Back to Kelly now.
yeah, Kelly, you want to go?
I had a few different inspirations for Raya. So I always do, when I do characters, I try and take like parts of like a certain section of myself and blow it up, or things that I maybe wish I was and blow it up. So like I'm a person who like cries when I get mad. I'm like very sensitive. So I'm like, I want to take my like more stoic side and be like, blow it up and be like, all right, what would this be like if I were just completely unemotional? Very like closed off, because I'm a very emotional person, so I wanted to see like what that would feel like to sort of like take that. And also Arya Stark, because I thought from Game of Thrones, because she's like she's like an assassin first, so like more assassiny, but like she's later on, like in the obviously later seasons are dicey in terms of writing, but I did like the thing about Arya that she was very stoic, and like she kind of didn't really like, she had emotions, but she was very like goal oriented and like kind of threw it all out for like the goal, and I sort of liked that about her, and so I wanted to like take, like I said, just that section, whereas like I said, campaign 2, it's like I'm exploring the very like goober side of myself that's like squishy and weird and like whatever. So I'm like, I'm gonna get but I'm like, this is the side of myself that's more like closed off and like, okay, we just gotta get it done kind of thing. So I think that was like that, and then like Arya Stark. So I wanted to see how that would be.
That makes me love Raya even more now. I love Arya Stark. I can see the connection now.
That's what I was like, because I even rewatching Game of Thrones now, and one of the things I do, even though like except later seasons are like meh, I do love about Arya is like she's just so like
Not
she just like wants
herself.
Wants to get it done, like doesn't like, is very like the Rock when she like needs to be for like even herself and stuff. So like I Yeah,
Cool.
that was kind of
She stayed calm the whole, like basically the whole time. Like we had two characters who were like the whole time running around in circles, and then you had Rye who was like, guys.
Yeah,
And she was like really good for us, I think.
And I think like it was interesting because I didn't know how I was gonna play her when bad things started happening, but I found like when bad things started happening, I was like, I feel like she'd be even more like just set. Like I can't think about anything. I have to just think about this. Whereas like maybe some of the other characters were much more like emotional.
Loved it because we would share the leadership at different parts of what we were going through, and it was amazing. Definitely. It was such a fun dynamic.
It was
definitely.
Cool. How about you, Mikey?
Renan has a very clear one. So there was a game that I wanted to play before this that I joined, and I was playing like a trying to remember his name. Kirito from Sword Art Online. I can't remember his name. And I was trying to play something similar. So that's where the katana came in, and that game literally ended 2 weeks. And then like he changed the story, and I changed characters. And then my first ever character ever in D&D was Mithranon, but it was in a different system. And so he was a half human, half elf with 2 daggers. And then I kind of was remaking him for fun. And then like, as I was rewriting him, you invited me to Beacons. And so I kind of had this like prophecy written, and that's kind of what I gave him that kind of developed into the Gwen and Hims thing. But at the same exact time was when I was getting into My Hero Academia and saw Deku. And like Deku makes me bawl with just like his pure-heartedness. And he's a no one that will sacrifice himself for all his friends and all the like everyone around him, like even if he doesn't know them, and then eventually finds power. So that's kind of what I put Renan on, because I just love that. So yeah, it's really fun, and that's why I think C2 will be interesting, because it's very different of Renan. So
yeah.
Oh, and taking off of what you just said too, I think I liked the idea of a character being like kind of the opposite of like being special from the beginning, like the most anti-special, like not at all, like literally someone no one wants to even associate with, like somebody who's like shoveling garbage. Like I love that idea of like somebody who's just so low in society that they like they're not taken seriously. So yeah, I liked that like anti kind of chosen one narrative was like
that's
nice.
what we were.
And
we were all like the lowest status.
And it's funny because we were very ragtag, and like to the end our dice rolls, so that was just like ones in the beginning. We just trip and fall out of every single time. We were just tripping and falling every time, but we had managed to.
I love it so much.
I did too.
I had such a hard time at the beginning with it, but it was like some of my favorite things now.
It was so frustrating in the beginning because it just, but after I got used to it, it was like, okay, we'll be okay. We'll turn it back around. Constantly the underdogs kind of feeling.
Oh yeah. So I'll do one more player question, then we can go back and forth between the two. This is a question I asked, and I really want to know, because I feel like D&D is one of those games where you kind of have, what is it? When we were at GaryCon, we learned the term character bleed over, where your life kind of bleeds into the character's life. And a lot of times when you're playing D&D, the character you're playing can kind of teach you a lesson about yourself. So my question for all of us is, what did playing your character teach you about yourself, if anything?
I think Kelly's up first, so...
Yeah. Oh, wait, did you need to...
If you need a second, go Rachel. Rachel, go for it. Rachel, go for it.
I do have an answer. Well, what's funny is that I started off Karis as like a blank slate character. I did not really have many like goals or thoughts in mind, which normally I don't do that for characters. Normally I'm like, I identify a problem with myself, like I have anxiety. I'm gonna have a character that has crippling anxiety so I can learn more about myself. That's usually how I do it. I didn't do it for Karis, which was a fun experience. So I let her own problems kind of come up, and her problem ended up being, you have someone that has no power and is excited suddenly when they get power, but then is so overpowered and like just crippled by the choices and responsibility. And in the dire moments where you need to make a choice now, she doesn't make a choice. She just freezes and shuts down. And that became her big thing, and her big thing she needed to overcome. And I didn't even realize it until Zilla died, that was like her kind of constant problem. And that she needed to overcome, in that conversation with Sab that kind of helped her. And the big thing that happened when Sab basically said, like, Karis, you need to learn to trust yourself, like you need to trust your instincts and trust your strength, and that like you actually have what it takes to figure this out. That was like something that like I tend to freeze up a lot as a person. I tend to get paralyzed by indecision because I don't want to do the wrong thing. And so that talk with Sab like helped me like and it was just one of those things that like something for me to remember about myself too, is like trust that I have the strength and the instincts probably to do what it takes. I just have to keep moving forward. So anyways, that's mine.
For me, there was a clear-cut connection that I don't know if even Mark you planned or not, or if it just was kind of like it went with the story, but it just happened to go with my life. But a lot of people know that my dad had left and then eventually passed away without me even getting a chance to say goodbye. So Ren not being able to say goodbye to his mom was a real big similar storyline, except that his mom was good and I have different feelings towards my dad. So there's that, but there was a lot of healing there. So that was actually one little like random storyline that kind of matched my life, on top of, I think for Ren, the piece of Ren that I put in here was that I always knew he had what it takes, and everyone's always talked to him that you have the potential and you can do whatever you want. And that's like literally what I've been told my whole life is, you know, you're smart, you can do what you want, you just have to put your mind to it or stuff. But there's always been like a fear, or a fear of failure that's held me and crippled me. And so learning to play Renan and facing everything that he faced and knowing he can rely on friends and rely on all this, that was the part of me that realized, okay, I'm actually living in fear of what I'm gonna fail to do versus trusting that I can succeed at stuff. So I mean, that literally turned into, you know, finding new jobs and moving and, you know, finding a new friend circle, and I mean, just everything. So Renan was probably the most vulnerable pieces of me that I put into a character ever. So I'll definitely always cherish what we had together with him.
That's really cool.
Going off of what you said, I feel like mine was sort of the opposite, where I'm like, Raya happened at a time where I felt very vulnerable and like very exposed, and I was also going through a lot of life changes and stuff. And I was like, I want someone who's like, again, yeah, kind of who I sort of wish I was, who was like a very stoic, like unemotional, able to just make decisions, doesn't really like consider other people sometimes, like maybe even to the point of like selfishness, but like is very like just sticks by her guns type of thing. And so but I feel like in that I sort of like saw the detriment of that, and like how like maybe being emotional can sort of like end up helping you and influencing decisions, and like make like you can't, because I don't think you can have connection while being that like stoic, and you can't, and like noticing how Raya just wasn't connecting with people, I'm like, okay, so that kind of like, as much as I wish I could like turn all of this stuff off about myself, especially in like a difficult time of my life, it ended up being like, I don't know if I want to turn, even if it makes me more vulnerable or makes me like seem more vulnerable or makes me seem weaker, so to speak, like maybe that's actually what's like connecting me to other people, is like that sort of vulnerability that like she just couldn't have at that point. And it was like, okay, maybe she needs to learn that. And so it's like sort of the merging of like my very emotional personal self and then like my very stoic character who like couldn't feel anything. And it was like, okay, how do I make a happy medium where it's like how you healthily like feel things and like connect with other people and like make relationships, but then also like you're able to be decisive and stick to your guns and feel like, no, I'm going to make the decisions that are like right for me. So sort of like blending those two together was and same thing, like I mean, this happened over 2 years. Like I went through a divorce in those 2 years. I went through like all this crazy stuff in that time, and so it was almost like during that time was like part of me like trying to merge those two selves like together. And I feel like in the end I actually got to a place where I felt like Raya was merging. I was like, okay, maybe maybe I am merging those selves. So I felt like me personally and the character really like we met in the middle, and it was nice. So I liked that.
I love
Beautiful.
that.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Mark, kind of in the same alley of what we're talking about here, the same lane. What do you feel like you learned running this game?
Yeah, that's good.
I think for me, I mean, of course, I learned some things like with running a game, like pacing of stuff, like simple things like that, balancing fights. Like, there's always that kind of stuff that you just like learn the more you do it. You just pick up on those and not throwing too much at a party, seeing where their strengths are, seeing where their weaknesses are, and maybe pointing that out a little bit with the simpler fight to kind of help them, because like there's little things like that you learn. But I don't know, I feel like as a whole this campaign was a lot of me feeling like I could really open up more in general, because like this is a stream game. That scared me so much to put my game out there for the first time ever and have it be potentially publicly hated by people and just like receiving hate from it. But and like Mike's a new player. I've never played with him before this, and I had no idea how that would go. He was somebody I didn't even know, like, really at the time. Rachel had a little bit of a connection to him. And like I ran a game for Kelly before. Rachel,
we hadn't played in a while though.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
So just like putting myself out there a little bit more, I think, was a big thing that was nice for this. And seeing like you guys get invested in the game, and seeing the chat get invested in the game, and like all the people who did like amazing art and the showing up week after week for over 100 sessions, like that meant a lot to me, because I was one of those people who felt like I was always pretty alone in the world, and I think that this helped me feel less alone, is just putting this out there and seeing how kind everyone could be back to me. So,
or even like this, I think the joint vulnerability too, of like all of us feeling like alone in some way and being like, oh wait, we all want to do and say things and be things that like maybe we can't express in the real world, but we can express in this venue. Now I'm gonna cry. But like, yeah,
That's so good. Yeah.
It's been my favorite thing, watching everyone find their happiness while we've been playing. Just, I mean, everyone's gone through difficult times, but like seeing everyone like find actual happiness in their life, it's been really, really like rewarding. So
Yeah, just making really, really big changes, and all of us kind of sticking together and like telling the story at the same time as we're all. And honestly, I mean, I think the game helping kind of get through some of those big changes throughout the stress of it, you know?
Yeah.
I think there's like a certain removal. Okay, there's like a removal when there's a character that's not you, that you can like do and be and like express things that maybe you couldn't, like I said, in your real life. But then also like the connection that you eventually come to, you're like, this is kind of something that I feel or I want, or like whatever. And so I think being able to like separate yourself enough to be like, oh, it's a game, I can like feel this or think this or say this, and then being able to like come back to it and like think, okay, wait, no, this is actually something that resonates with me, or maybe like I said, it's the opposite of me, and I can kind of see where I'm coming from in a different way that I maybe couldn't before. So
yeah. Absolutely. Beautiful answers, you guys. Thank you for being honest in that and vulnerable. Let's see. I had one actually from... Okay, let's do another player question. This might actually kind of be within the same sort of thing, if it depends on the moments that you guys like. But what was your favorite moment for your character in the campaign, or at least one of your favorites? Lit and Mike both asked this.
I gotta go first, right?
Go first.
Frickin' Jeremy at the end.
That's great.
Has to be in my top moments for sure.
I love that
so
too,
emotional.
because Jeremy's level 5. He's a level
Crazy.
5 character,
Crazy.
and he made one of the biggest impacts in that final fight, and he's level
He did.
5.
He
Like,
did.
I loved having
Wild.
Jeremy there.
He was great.
But that was at the end. I'd say there's so many amazing moments, but I had there's 2 moments that really got to me. Just always with Alasha. There was the first one
Yes.
where he just like gave himself into her. That was like I don't know. That was a big moment for me. But then when he became a sorcerer, and they had like that dream with like finding something there. That was something really beautiful too. So those are like little moments that just meant a lot to Renan. I think I liked other moments for other people, but for Renan's, those are some of my favorite moments.
Yeah, for your character. Yeah, I love that. Those are really good. Kelly, do you have one or need to think?
I have a few. So one of the okay, so I actually called Rachel up and told her about this because I was like, it was the first time I'd felt like, because okay, I obviously again before this I guess had a hard time connecting character emotion to like me. And I think I'm getting better at it. I think maybe, I don't know if it takes practice or if it's like something that I'm working on, like my personal life, whatever. But I'm like, I feel like and this is something that probably no one else noticed, but for some reason this was a big moment for like Raya internally, was like when we were the first time when we were in the dragon lair, and me, and first of all when like for some reason again I felt like it's so weird when you feel like your character does stuff without you even really like like agreeing. You're like, all right, my character just did this. But when she like dove down after Zilla, and my first thought when when I was down there and Karis like went down there, my immediate thought was like, Raya would never make Karis pick between Raya and her mom. And so I was like, I'm just gonna go up in this little like thing and just hide myself. And I literally thought, I'm like, if the dragon kills me, I'm totally okay with like that. If that's my end, that's my end. And like I would never make, and I think that for like my character, it felt like a big moment because I was like, oh, she like really loves Karis and she wanted her to like never have to pick. She never wanted her to have to like worry about like choosing. It's like, I will choose for you. I'll get out of here. And so you can like have this. I also think like, yeah, as much as diving on the grenade felt like a dumb move in the moment. Again, it was one of those things. It was one of those things.
So
Like,
good.
I feel like my character did it, and I was like, I don't know if it's like Kelly, the person was like, this is a bad call, but like the character felt like it did, and I guess in those moments felt really big for me because it felt like, yeah, that was like the character sort of taking over, and it was like big moments that like changed everything. Also, for some reason, I felt like when Raya was the last one standing against Boyd, that felt like a big moment for some reason. So that was the first time that I was like, I don't know what to do, and I feel like really lost without my friends, and I feel very sad. Like I know that I knew that they were dead, and I was like, I don't even want to fight. Like I didn't know what to. Yeah, as like Raya as a character didn't know what to do, and so that felt like a big moment of like
closer to you after that, after we all died.
Yeah, like it felt like I think that was like the first breakthrough of like anything of like maybe I should start like. I don't know. Yeah. That felt big for her character. But,
I think that was when she started trying to be us. I think she like afterwards she was like, I
love you guys.
So now
it was like,
yeah.
It was like, because it wasn't. I think if it would have just been a death experience for Raya, it wouldn't have done anything. But the fact that like she had to watch her friends die first and be the last one, just because of my dex rolls, I was like, I had to watch everyone else die and then be like, this is terrible. Like I feel not good. So yeah, that was big. Sorry if that was too long of an answer.
No, I liked them a lot. And Kelly, I like the in-depth answers with Raya specifically just because she did not vocalize a lot of stuff. So it's nice to hear some insight at the end of like what was kind of going on with her internally.
Yeah. Maybe I should have said more, but it was maybe true to the character. We shouldn't say anything.
I think it was true to the character. Yeah.
It's totally fine.
I think a lot of this would probably be said in sending afterwards once they get older and look back on it. And
more in tune with like, I'd say so.
My knee hurts. How's yours? Like,
yeah.
My moments. I'm trying to think. Mine are because of who Karis is. My favorite moments were not kind of the big emotional ones, but the simple ones. I loved the snowball fight with Shaw. That was one of my favorite moments in the whole campaign because I liked the dynamic where you have workaholic Shaw who never has fun probably because he's just so focused on trying to get his goals done. And also the thought later of like, we got Death to have a snowball fight with us, you know. But like just that we could convince him to come and just like play with us for a little bit and do something silly, and the fact that we could see sides of him where he's like pranking people and like thinking of like things to do that is just like really like silly, like hiding with the Big B's hand where Ren and Gwen to like come out and then he just jumps it on them and like I don't know, it was such like a fun scene. And like for Karis, who is still kind of a kid, like those simple moments were the things that meant so much to her. Or like even like when, you know, she was someone who in her life in the past, aside from Samo and Rodden, she was ignored and overlooked and kind of insulted because of Samo's status. So anytime anyone was simply kind to her or like received her was just like made her world. So even when she brought shells for people and like Hibbert kept his and like Shaw put his on his desk, like those little moments just like meant the world to her. So I don't know, just little things like that were like my favorite moments. It just was really fun.
That made me think, sorry, Mark, I gotta know, because I was thinking the trinket and the shell was up with Arturo. Did Arturo come with Renan? We have to know. We have to know these answers.
I'm gonna roll right now.
Wait, where's Crusher too? We need to know.
Sorry, man. I did not roll high enough.
Okay, Arturo is with someone else.
Arturo can be cared for by somebody else.
Oh man.
Crusher back in the wild.
Crusher is somewhere out on his own, living a happy
Maybe he's
snake
having-
life.
He's in
Maybe
his
he's having a great
family.
time. He's doing great.
I like to think he's doing great.
He's doing great.
So Markiona asked, what was the origin of this story and campaign? Did you have a moment of, I know what I want to run? And if yes, do you remember what it was or what made that happen? Great question, Yona.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so long ago. So I wanted to run a game, and like I thought it'd be interesting to try a stream game, to try it because I was sick of not playing D&D at the time because, I mean, the world ended for a little bit.
Woof, yeah.
And
yeah, did that have anything? Did that have anything to do with it? Like the kind of world ending, like
a little bit, yeah. So I set up like a apocalyptic world, and I kind of got this idea of I want to tell the story of death and his history. So I kind of came up with this backstory for who he is, and I wanted it to be a small game. That was a big thing. I wanted it to be a small, contained, especially for my first stream game. I didn't want to do anything too big. I wanted to have it be really small. It's a very contained world. And I'm like, oh, it's a contained world. Probably was brought here. And then I just kind of thought up this like person on the middle who was just like the good guy protecting everybody from the bad guy on the outside. I'm like, what if that good guy isn't a good guy though?
Yeah.
And it's just like has a false motive for why he's being the good guy. And I just kind of went with that.
You know we're gonna question every NPC.
Oh yeah. Like you guys did beacons to every NPC you already were like, I don't trust them.
I have a random question too. Were you just rolling really well for Illuminance to like lie to us, or how did that work? I'm sorry, I just thought of that question.
So you got like a 31 or something for your insight.
Yeah.
I rolled a nat 20, and he has a plus 17 to his deception.
So he's very good at lying. Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, because after a while, I'm like, he must just be so good at like deception or something, where he's like very good at it.
Yeah,
but
I got a 37.
I love the psychic scream so much more because it's just liars.
Yeah,
like, I don't
it's
care
so
how
good.
bad your deception is. This is going through.
Yep.
Also, I love that you drew that, Rachel. It was great. I loved that.
Thank you. I had to get that out
So-
of my system.
Yeah. I was like wondering, I'm like, was he just really, did he have a crazy high modifier? But I guess he did.
Oh,
He,
yeah. He had crazy high modifier. Plus 17 to his deception rolls. That was...
Wow.
And I was like, sorry, he beat you by 6. I can't do anything
And
about that.
that's, no, that's fair. I'm like, I have really good insight, but I'm like, I could be still wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I love that idea of a good guy being actually the bad guy.
It was fun.
It's good.
And it's funny because I think everyone as players was kind of suspicious of him, and over time he earned our trust.
That was a big goal of mine was...
Like,
I knew right away he's gonna stand out as the big bad, like, possible guy. and I tried to like balance it between Shaw and
Yeah.
Illuminance a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
oh, Zangul, he's the obvious one. He's probably not the actual bad guy. Like, but I try to like we have this weird balance, and like I'm like I want them to trust Illuminance though. And I got you guys there eventually, and I was so happy about that.
Honestly, after he brought Ren back, that like to me
it's
was like
well,
a big.
why would he?
Yeah, that worked out really well.
Ren wanted to be judged so bad, or go up to him and just try and like get this like clarity of like, are you good, and just get this feel for it. And I will never forgive Shaw for not letting him.
Actually, what would have? Can you tell us what would have happened if Ren would have been like, I want to be judged? Like, would have Illuminance been like, yeah, no, like, go back? Like, he wouldn't have done it?
It would have depended on when you did it.
Okay.
When you guys were early game, he probably would have just let you go and just be like, oh, no, you're great, man. Just keep doing good.
Yeah.
Protect the city. You're great.
That would have been a huge way of winning over Renan's trust if he had survived
for
the
sure.
judgment
I mean,
or something.
you literally could have been a Beaconite instead of following Elasha. You could have gone to the Beacon and got your powers from there and made an oath to Luminance. But
Amazing.
yeah, if you guys would have done it later game, once you were starting to like destroy ruins, he probably would have just fried you and just boom, you're gone.
Oh no.
And that would have been it. So
I was like, stop. Nope. Stop it.
well,
Oh,
that was what the nice thing about having Shaw there was to be like, I don't want Mike to do this because I don't want to make him have a new character. So I'm just gonna be like, don't go there, man. You can't go there.
Okay. And I was
Wait,
like, okay.
Can I ask really fast? And I can wait if Dan says. Was there any moments as a DM, Mark, where you were like very worried about us making decisions or our like direction, where you're like, oh gosh, I can't.
That's a pretty good
Literally just did
question.
this.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I can put it in the chat. We can answer
No, that's
later
fine.
if it's easier.
I can answer it real quick. Moments that you guys were making a questionable decision.
Making you very nervous.
Misty step out of a second store building at one hit point.
That too.
Yeah, that was interesting. Fred just likes to die, apparently.
He does.
I don't know. There's not a lot that caught me too much off guard. I pretty much expected most of the things you guys were going to do. Yeah, I don't think you guys did anything that I was like, this is bad, I'm upset you're doing this. I think the only thing that I just was kind of like, I'm not sure how this is going to work out was the Boyd thing, where you guys were like refusing to work with him. And
That was
I'm
rough.
just watching that, like, you guys can't proceed though until you either accept him or you gotta just leave and come back later, because like you don't have what you need to get to where you want to go. That's why I thought Boyd was going to be later in the game. It's like you guys didn't have the ability to get to him unless he helped you. So when you were pushing that, I was like, okay, you'd offer this out there, and when you're refusing, it was like, okay, well, you guys probably have to turn back and do something else then, because
A little bit
There
of
were
a
like
dead
3
end.
sessions we were like being hounded by him and stuff, so that felt that was
It's hard
interesting.
for like I think players sometimes to know there's a dead end without a DM like clearly stating that, because it's like, well, we're just not finding it, or like, you know, we're
Or at
just
that
not
time,
rolling
too,
well. So
at that time too, we were very set in our like good and evil, like demons are evil, we can't work with
Yep.
demons, and so
yeah,
we were very black and white in our thinking. Whereas like I think obviously after we got to know Boyd a little bit, we're like, wait, but he like actually is pretty okay, and we feel okay with working with him, and so that obviously changed I think our perspective from and then we started thinking maybe demons can be. So I think Boyd changed our like
100%.
whole worldview of like maybe this can actually be good, because he even gave like he brought us back to life and stuff.
Well,
So,
yeah,
it
Renan
was-
thought against the darkness meant against demons, and then Elisha was like,
yeah.
I mean, I trust your take on it, and I'm like,
What?
hatred. Hold up, what? You're like, no,
Yeah.
it's the darkness. I don't know what that is, but I trust you to figure that out. And I think that moment was when Renan was like, this is more gray than I thought it was. So that was a big, huge turning point, I think, for a lot of us.
Right. I think for all of us, we were like,
Mhm.
maybe demons aren't so. And especially seeing good things Boyd had done, we're like,
Or Curtis
even
being
if
there.
they were like,
yeah.
even if they were self-serving good things, it was still like, well, he's still like doing something that's not.
It's like Shaw.
I mean,
it's like, you know, they're goal oriented, but it's for the betterment of other people. And
a lot of the quest lines I put in place were meant to kind of teach you the lessons to question Illuminance and be ready to fight him. Like that was
it's
a
fun.
lot of the purpose of a lot of these quests were like to teach you something, so you're getting one step closer to being ready to fight Illuminance. So
That's really fun.
Yeah, I like
Super
that.
fun.
Very intentional.
Mhm.
So player questions next. Shiv asks, looking back at your class build throughout the game, what were you happy and unhappy with, and what would you have done differently? I feel like Mike has an immediate
Mike's ready to
answer.
go. Mike's ready to go.
Like telling me you were ready to go.
Mike knows that answer.
I don't know if it was the way we were rolling or the stats or combination or just, I don't know what it was. I was not enjoying Paladin early on. He was going down. I couldn't heal anyone. I couldn't be on the offense. Like and one big thing about me is I like being both utility, so I can switch when I need to, and also being efficient. So like when I have a turn and I'm like, all I do is an action, no bonus action, no reaction, and like it's a waste to me a lot of times. So when we started getting to this game and we're like going down and I'm like, I'm out of healing, y'all need to stop dying, and like just like there's a lot of frustration for me because I also wasn't used to, I think, difficult fights either. I mean, like I've been in a lot of games where just like fights are kind of like, I've never been under 100 before, so it was a new take for me. So getting used to that, it's so funny because it's a lesson early and a lesson late. Because early on I'm like, man, I kind of just wish I had just gone cleric from the start, been a cleric for all of us, or going with the build. I think I would have done way less paladin and way more sorcerer if I was going to go this build or something, or even maybe talk to Mark and see, can I make the tri-class work of a cleric, paladin, sorcerer, and kind of just fuse that and make a build there. But that's very much heavy on the build side. The lesson I learned at the end though was I've never been in a game that's gone this long where I've seen enemies have your class with magic, and I've never seen the shortcomings of multi-class. So if we hadn't gotten that level 17, I wouldn't have had heal. Like I think Ryan and I would have gone down because I would have spent all of my points then. I wouldn't have done some of the big spells I did for offense. So like there's a lot of big things happening that I'm like, okay, maybe some of these longer campaigns going solo class is interesting, because I've never done that before. I've never gone solo class. I've always multi-class. So there's a lot of learning with this. And I think Paladin would have been fun if I'd stuck to it over time. But it's just, I learned a lot with him. And Renan's not at all the most optimized build because it's very narrative built, which is fun. I enjoy that. But it was learning to accept that and be okay with that and really lean into that and trust Mark as the DM, knowing like, okay, you know I have shortcomings. I trust you to help me out with this. So like Amulet came and help, and like the Sorcerer for healing, and then having Rodden come in to not like ease the pressure off me as a healer was huge. So
that helps so much. I think like
so
I wanted you guys to play the game you wanted to play. So I worked to try to help you play that game. So So Mark did amazing, and I don't think I've ever had a DM quite do it the way he did. So I thought that was really fun, just in so many aspects of learning this game in a different way that I've never played it before.
I know.
I'm ready with that answer.
Yes. I know. That's been like an ongoing discussion
like
the whole game. I don't have regrets for how I built Karis.
She was crazy.
She was a powerhouse.
Oh man, I enjoyed being a noob.
I want to play Pure Sorcerer one day.
Oh my gosh, and I wasn't sure if I would like solo sorcerer. Especially my biggest complaint when I first started. I remember I was trying to convince Mark to be a little lenient and break the rules for me, and he said no, of course. But one of my big things was, Mark, I love sorcerers, but I hate that they have such limited spells. Can you let me have the bard spell numbers instead that they learn? And he was like, no, you gotta stick with sorcerer. And I was like, okay, fine. So, but I actually enjoyed that because it forced me to become super optimized for canceling spells and nuking, and that was basically it, aside from teleporting and tongues were the other two spells I had. And that was so fun. Like once I knew what my strengths were, I knew to lean into it, and fights were so cool. I loved all the fights playing her.
You were a lot of noble players for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
And I feel like it was a lot of his narrative where like as she gained confidence and like skill, like her spells got like crazy powerful. Where I was like,
whoa,
it was good.
Karis was very powerful.
I love it.
At times I can I considered doing multi-class. Like I think early on I had considered maybe bringing in some monk because of the Iron Fist, and doing some punching. But that kind of died pretty quickly. The other one I was really considering was bringing in a Warlock pact with the Grathgore.
Yeah, that'd been cool.
And you know, everyone said stuff about how sorcerer warlocks are just like so cool. So that was a thought. But then I think I was thinking about it, and it was a level up, so it was my time to choose. Like once we had Grathgore, and it was my time to choose. Do I go Warlock and try this out, or maybe do like a Celestial Pact so I could heal? Or do I stick with Sorcerer? And like that was when I had just gotten 6 level spells, and I read Sunbeam. I'm like, oh, never mind. I want the high level spells. I'm not sacrificing this.
Yes.
Can you imagine having Psycho Scream at the end or Psychic Scream?
That honestly turned the entire tide of the boss fight.
Well, Karis always did that from like day one with like Wall of Fire. I mean, like that's what I loved about Karis. It's like you were a battlefield manipulator while also being the spell powerhouse, and it was so cool to watch that play out.
It was very fun. I had a great time. What about you, Kelly?
I actually super enjoyed playing a straight sword or a straight rogue. Sorry, I'm still going right off of you. God. Honestly, the question is, am I gonna do that for the second campaign too? I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna do whatever you're doing.
You're gonna say you're a rogue the whole time.
I liked being a straight rogue. I felt like especially, well, I mean, obviously everyone could tell at the beginning, or like if you go back to the beginning episodes. So I had been I had been like a paladin for years. Like I'd always picked characters that were paladins. I'd always been like more of a like bulky, like whatever. And so rogue was a big switch for me. And this was the beginning episodes. I was like, I'm gonna go in the front. And I kept like doing that like whole thing. I don't know why. It was so hard for me to switch. So I felt like it was. Eventually, I realized I'm like, I keep dying. This is like embarrassing. I need to like switch it up. And so I finally did learn my class. The one thing I felt sad about, I felt like I didn't use her Arcane Trickster as much as maybe I could have. But also, some of the stuff, so many of the spells for like wizards and stuff, because they're wizard spells, right? Is that right? Like they're mostly.
I think a lot of them are wizard spells, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them are saves, and I'm like, I don't even want to bother with these with Mark because I know he's gonna roll too well. So I was like, I'm not even gonna bother, whatever, it's fine. And so I would just like, but I felt like some of the, like invisibility, fly, haste, like those came in handy a lot when like later on.
Miraculous haste. It still.
I have no idea.
To this day.
Crazy.
I'm like, you know what? Maybe rogues do good with haste. I have no idea, but that was
y'all gonna
crazy.
Y'all gonna learn that I'm going to try and make haste work in the next campaign, and y'all gonna hate it.
We're gonna see.
I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna lean into it.
We're gonna see.
Go for it.
Worked for me.
Bring it on.
I'm sure I'll die at some point because of it.
So I guess as I got higher level, I super enjoyed it because after like so many sneak attack dice and stuff, it was like, oh, she can do major damage with like one hit. If I get like a correct hit, or if I get like a nat 20, if I do anything, it's like I could deal the death blow. So that felt very good to be like, as weak as I was and how easily I died, it felt nice to be able to like deal major damage and like do all the abilities.
Super dangerous. You did so much damage to people. Like
when you would get those nat 20s, you'd be like, I don't know, 20d6, and I'm like,
girl,
hallelujah.
That fight when we were rescuing Rodden and Henry was just decimating us, and then you get the crit on him for like 60, 70 damage, and then we took him down super quick afterwards. Like that changed that whole fight.
So that's what I think, like, cause I toyed with multi-classing for in the beginning, but then after I started to realize like how much rogues can do if they really are like ahead. And one of the things I'm sad I didn't use in the last battle was what's it called? The spell spell theft, where you can like spell thief, where you can like take a spell. And I was like, because my thought was, I'm like, if Rye gets healed and she doesn't necessarily need it, I was gonna take a healing spell and then just use it for the rest of the time and use up all my spell slots on that like healing spell.
I was going down to like lower spell slots, and I was going to be like, Raya, this is it. Yeah, and I was going to heal you with cure wounds.
It didn't have a chance with how everything worked out, and I'm happy how everything worked out. But it was also just like, I don't know. I really liked high level rogue. I think it was very fun. I super enjoyed playing a rogue. So
awesome.
So Mark, for you, what was one of your favorite moments in the game?
Oh man.
D asked that one.
Favorite
Yeah.
moments for the game. So one of my early ones I really liked was when Shaw got fired. And like
That was
that was like the
badass.
first like major reaction I got from all of you, which was like, yes, that felt so good. So I
was
love
really
that
good.
moment.
And it's drawn to all of our faces
Yeah.
as our
Mhm.
characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so great. That was a good early one. I think it's always fun listening to you guys theorize about stuff too. I mean, Rachel figured out the death thing super early, and I just had to like play it
Yeah.
neutral for like a year because
I'd say no, 2 years.
2 years?
Honestly,
You got pretty early,
I
yeah.
started thinking it
Oh,
episode
it was
6.
super
You
early.
did.
Yeah. So
Session 6.
So
so I had to play
started
like
thinking
2 years of D&D, not letting on that she got it dead on. So that
I
was
would-
You
would
made her
notice-
question it sometimes, yeah.
There were some sessions where I'd see you say something that Shaw did, and she'd be like, and she'd start
Yep.
writing it down.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, is this something that Death did? So
There's-
like, I'd see
Yeah.
her like, I knew it.
There's a lot of
Kind
clips,
It was
of the
good.
points like more evidence. It's just like
Yeah, and she'd like
I'd
write
go
it
through
down
a
like,
clip. I'd go through sessions and I'd clip and I'd be like, "This is more evidence."
This is it.
Sean.
Like, I
There's like 6 or 7 clips of
Yeah.
it. It's hilarious.
and her face would be like she'd immediately be like, wait, I know this one.
It's the
Very- so
same
I-
thing. So when
Yeah.
I look at Rachel, it's the same thing with looking at Mark in the Zelda game. It's that same like response. I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
important. Okay, let me write this down somewhere. It's a reference they recognize.
But I
Yeah,
think more
yeah.
recently, like I really liked the final fight, how all of you kind of had your really cool moments. I love the Jeremy moment too, just running in there with the diamond and being like, "Get up!" It's
Hey,
just
buddy.
like
that was great.
like you thought you were done, Mike. It was like you put away your
I
stuff
was
or whatever. Like you were
Completely
like,
at peace. I was just
this is
cheerleading
game
you guys
over.
on. I was like, this
Yeah.
is fun. I'm like popcorning. Like
yeah,
it was so nice to not have the stress of that final fight. And then you revivified me. I'm like, I don't know my spells anymore. Like I had put away my character
Yeah.
sheet because I didn't want to look at it anymore. I had to like pull it back up.
I'm like, Mike, you are still in this fight, buddy. Do not put your stuff away. And yeah, your heal was massive. Karis' psychic
Ugh.
scream. Raya like holding a pace and shooting things like crazy. Ren like with the save on Raya at the end, because there were two things
Oh.
you did at the end where you rolled the nat 20. You got ahead of him to shoot him first.
yeah.
If both of those, like if you wouldn't have been before him or you didn't get the nat 20, he would have still been up. And Raya would have had to do another save, which is another chance
And
that
I
she
was-
just is
I
gone.
was-
It would have been
I was officially out of luck
disintegration,
points
yeah.
too, so if I would have
Yeah.
rolled lower than what was the save on that too? It was high, wasn't
That was-
it?
it was
like
16.
21.
It was 16.
Oh,
that's
for that.
still-
16
that
I mean,
was-
oh,
yeah.
okay.
still pretty high. For what was a Constitution save? Was it? Because I only had
Yeah.
+2 for that, so I wasn't. Like if it was a Dex save, I had +9, so I was like, whatever.
Nah, yeah, it's
But
a
if it
con
would've-
save.
Yeah.
So
No, I was not very good at those either. So,
So-
I was.
That's
would've been
that's a tough one for you. Wow.
Yeah.
So it was
not good.
really
So-
cool last fight where you guys just kind of came together and took care of business as you needed to and had your
Especially
major
after having our butts
moments.
whooped in different moments. It was really nice to have
Mhm.
that happen the way it did. It was
It's
really
nice to feel cool and not like.
So that was
I
a
thought
really
Garrett was going
fun.
down. I thought there was a domino effect happening, and the fact that like we stopped that and like turned the momentum was the coolest thing to see.
That was a really
Mhm.
fun final fight for me because I think it really was a lot of strengths that were shown for all of you. So I love how
Mhm.
that went. I walked away feeling really satisfied with how things went last session. So that felt
I
good
agree.
to me.
I totally agree. So back to some player questions. Shiv asks, do you feel like your character has had closure? Or is there anything you would hope to accomplish with them that didn't pan out?
Complete closure with Ren. I was really worried about this because if there was, I really wasn't expecting to find Karis on the same plane. And so if there would have been no contact with the other two, I had already thought it out because I had like 2 endings, and I was like, something about just not knowing the safety of his friends would have kept him from settling down with Gwen. Like I thought it out. I was like, they might have tried, and then he probably would have broke it off because he just couldn't concentrate on it. And would have spent literally his entire life looking around the land for ways to get to them, and then would have had to retire as an elder. So it was like a really bittersweet ending for me. So the way it all kind of rolled out was complete closure for me. So
Okay, because yeah, Shiv said the question was for pre-epilogue, so you feel like you did everything you wanted
sorry,
to
pre-epilogue.
within the game. Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't listening to that.
He just
Yeah,
clarified in chat, so you're okay.
for sure. The only thing pre-epilogue, I think, in game, and it's still okay because of the epilogue, but just making sure the church and then the moon elves, like I don't think he had a chance to go back to the moon elves near the end just because of the urgency of it. But he had trust in it, so there was closure. It was fine. But I think if he had never been able to say goodbye to his family, that might have stuck with him as well. If he had like gone to a different plane and was with Rye or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but beyond that, as far as like his whole journey, complete closure with everything in game.
Rachel?
I'm pretty bummed that Zilla died. I know Mark did his best with the situation that was created to give closure, and so there is closure. But there was so much buildup for Zilla the whole campaign, and I was really hoping to watch Zilla's character growth more.
And she was growing too, which is sad.
And she was growing, yeah. And like I really I was so looking forward to like a conversation after the fight of the dragon with her where her reality is actually shattered. Like the thought where she thinks, okay, this is the thing that's gonna make it all work out, didn't end up happening, and like I really wanted that for them.
Yeah.
I really wanted that for them. I really wanted like a resolution more with Samo and Zilla. So I was really disappointed, and really that was me because that was me and Karis just hesitating. There was a moment I could have teleported everyone out of the battle and everyone probably would have lived, but Karis was scared to leave someone behind so that they die, and so she chose to try and book it out on foot, underestimating the dragon's speed. And so Zilla died because of that, which it ended up being okay because like I said, Mark did what he could with Zilla, but also, Sab, who has been a figure from episode 21, and someone that Karis has always looked up to and thought was really cool and always really longed for a connection. That actually happened because of Zilla's death, and I think they were really close from then on, throughout the rest of her life. So it ended up being okay. It didn't go the direction I had hoped, but it was still, I feel okay.
Brennan's biggest regret was not getting to her body or finding a diamond or being able to save her. So that was, that was really tough.
That was a rough loss for sure.
Oh no!
Bye.
Hey, Kelly.
Kelly.
Can you
rolled still.
Hello.
Discord just stopped. I wasn't even touching my screen.
Sometimes it does that. Yeah.
Discord's been weird lately.
The Twitch screen. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah. But I think that's it. Everything else, I feel like I did what I wanted to. Kelly, did you have anything?
I was thankful I got the opportunity to wrap up. I mean, even if stuff with my family didn't work out, or Thrive's family didn't work out in terms of convincing them in the moment. I'm happy that obviously the epilogue gave resolution, and I'm thankful that Raya was able to save Amber, because like I said, that would have felt really bad if Amber would have died, hating her. It would have felt not good. So I'm glad that happened.
Yeah, I'm glad that worked out the way it did.
I'm glad it worked out the way it did. I think it was very narrative for I don't know. I feel like things wrapped up nicely, especially even with the epilogue and stuff, where it was almost like anything that was discontinued or not continued in that was able to continue in the epilogue, and I feel good about it. I feel like I did everything I needed to.
Ooh. Mark, do you ask?
Can I just add one little quick thing to that? One thing I really love about the dynamics of this group, I have been in groups where players have tried to go the super, super pacifist route. I'm not talking Zach. I'm talking other people who are I'm not even willing to join in this fight. I'm not rolling initiative. To the point where people died because of it. I can't because I'm pacifist. And it's the way we were so pacifist and willing to not even try and kill our enemies, I thought it was really fun to do throughout, because I think D&D, a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm running crowbar, let's move on. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, they're just fake. So the balance we did of like, it wasn't easy, but especially near the end, like being able to do that was really cool all throughout. So
definitely. Mark, I know what time did you want to end? Because I have maybe like 4 more questions total for everybody.
We could probably power through those 4 and then do the last things.
Cool. Okay, that sounds good. So Mark, what was the biggest adjustment you had to do with this group specifically? Was there anything you had to switch up suddenly?
Well, one thing.
D asked that, by the way. Thank you, D.
One thing is we were supposed to have a 4th player at the start. Like, I planned this game for 4 players.
Were we?
Yeah, and
I forgot.
Pretty last minute, like the player that we had said they couldn't do it anymore. So I'm just like, okay, I guess we're going in with 3. I'm gonna do my best with it and support them with NPCs when I have to. And so that was a big adjustment early on. And then you guys got powerful enough and had connections that it worked out pretty well after that. So that was probably the earliest big adjustment. Later game, I don't know how much adjustment I had to do. There were a couple fights where I did better than I thought I did, or I thought I was gonna do. So I had to kind of like figure out what to do with that. But but I don't think there was any major adjustments I had to do after that. Probably just going with the flow and whatever you guys had to do with your dice rolls. Like I didn't know how the end game was gonna go. I didn't have any specific plans you guys could have picked to have anybody be the big bad. I really was very open to whatever you're doing, so the whole game was just kind of adjusting to what you guys were deciding, the directions you were going, and the fights you were picking, like the friends you were making, the enemies you were making. It was all on the fly, I felt like. So I kind of got used to that as I guess the whole campaign went on.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Were there any like dice rolls or anything in the game that like genuinely shocked you, whether bad or good, where you're like, wow, they're doing worse than I thought, or like good, you're like, oh, this is so much easier?
I mean,
do you remember?
I think when
there's so many we did bad on. I feel like those would be more rough, like prevalent.
I can't remember. I think there was one time that you guys failed a column save, and I was like, how did you fail? You have such a high like modifier to your saves and you still fail. Like, what in the world? And Ren dying so quickly in that one fight I did not expect that to happen. The blob falling on him, like I didn't expect it to go that way. I'm just like, okay, he's just dead.
He's just gone.
Oh, I remember one.
So that was a big change on the fly. Yeah.
I remember when we were kidnapped by the Sun Elves and Ren went in the bush. And and Karis had tried to escape, and she ended up just going like right back into the Sun Elves. Yeah. And then you literally had to break early, and you were like pacing around the kitchen, going, "I don't know what to do. I wasn't sure. I had no idea this was gonna happen."
This when we were the Sun Elves, when we were trying to kill Jarzagon? Was that what this was?
It was when Sab was bad.
Yeah.
And Lorith was dressed up as a spire guard.
Yeah.
And she had and we were hasted trying to run away, and she hit me, and I lost concentration. So Lorith,
both of you went down.
That's right.
Kidnapped us.
Is that when we hit the guard and ended up being Samo? It was like disguised or something like that. Was that?
This was in the city. This was in the city when this happened. And yeah, you all got captured. Right. And then that was when Red almost died jumping out of a window that you didn't realize. And I was hoping you guys would
the death saves too, and it was like that's when he rolled another one and he barely survived or something like that.
You survived fine. You didn't have an issue when I rolled them, but yeah, like I thought you guys would break out and escape or something, and then just I don't know what happened there. I was like, okay, I guess we're proceeding with them still having you, so we're going forward with that. That was
Shaw felt like a little a nice little help. Thanks, Shaw. We saw.
That was fun having Shaw bust you out.
I loved that. Well, I think that earned a lot of trust actually with the group with Shaw. It was kind of like, oh, he does care about us. He's gonna drive out and break into the Sun Elf camp and like come and get us. Yep. So, I actually asked this. I'm curious. What was an aspect, players, of your character that you found challenging to play?
Oh.
I can answer if you guys need a second to think.
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
go.
So mine was that Karis is a kid, and there were a lot of times where she did not have the emotional capability to deal with some hard things in the world, and that was difficult for me to know what to do as a player. And there were also times where, as a player, I was thinking, okay, no, I don't think we should be doing this, or this is the wrong direction, or I just don't think this is a smart. But Karis was too scared or felt like the party, you know, was like, well, they're older, so they know. Or even like NPCs, like, oh, they're older, so they know.
Yeah.
And so I had to hold back, which in some ways is good because I'm a control freak. I have to forcefully hold myself back. So playing Karis was actually good in some ways because me forcing myself to hold back because of her gave other people opportunities to step up. So that's a good thing. But it was still really hard to play. And just, you know, her opinion would be undermined a lot because of her youth. And sometimes that could be funny and sometimes that could be like extra complicated. So don't regret it, but it was definitely challenging.
Mike, do you have any? I'm trying to think still.
I think early on it was a little difficult because like I wanted Renan to be really nice, but I never really thought he was, I mean, he never killed someone like early on, like he wasn't a warrior, so like I didn't have to think about that. But later on when people started becoming enemies, because he had such a black and white view on things of like, well, if you're not, like, I have to protect people, so that means whatever I have to do is fine. There was like a little bit of back and forth of constraining him because there's like some anger parts with him, or like sometimes like I was willing to let him go into more of a I don't care if they die or not. So it was a lot of really tough times of being like, that's not, Brandon's not gonna be happy with this, and then the other characters kind of helping mold that. So that was a little difficult, I think, for him. And then I think for me, I do forget a lot of things. I have a lot of bad like name forgetful stuff. So that does play into it, but Renan had a like really low wisdom, and I'm really big on playing high wisdom characters. So having to dumb them down sometimes and just be like, whatever the surface thought of what my gut instinct is what he should do. And I, just like you said, I'm like, that's not a good idea, Ren, but we're gonna make the call anyway because Stokes probably has the phone, but you are hoping and optimistic that he doesn't. So like there's a lot of moments like that. So it's very similar where I felt he was very immature in this world, but it made sense in the world. Like it all worked out because like, you know, he's like a fish out of water. So yeah, that was really hard.
I could see that.
In the beginning, I think that I had a hard like. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? Just because I know what the theme of the question is, but I just want to know the question.
It was what was a aspect of your character that was challenging for you to play out?
I think at first, because my whole thing with like Raya at first was like very, very mistrustful. So I think her learning to trust certain people felt really hard because I'm like, am I being true to the character in this? Would she actually trust them? Like, do I as the player trust this person? Where I'm like, yeah, I feel like this is good, but like, would the character trust this person? So I feel like that was different. And then also, I felt like Raya was much more decisive and like less like emotional, whereas like me myself is I'm very people pleasy, so like I feel like we three people pleasers playing D&D had to call each other several times and be like, hey guys, are we okay with it? Are we okay with this decision?
Yeah.
Never heard this. So like I feel like that was challenging in the sense of like, okay, how can we make this seem authentic to our characters, but also like I want to make sure I'm not like being rude to the other players in this because like Kelly the person is very concerned how everyone is feeling, so I feel very uncomfortable just making this decision for everyone else. So I think that I'd say near the end that was the most difficult thing is like being true to my character, but also being like, hey, is everyone, I don't want to steamroll anyone, like is everyone feeling okay with this? Like, and we had a lot of discussions like over the last few months of like, not a lot, but like at least a few where I've never had that so much in D&D campaigns. Like it's three people who just really want to make sure everyone's happy and okay, and we're all
Yeah.
just trying to be sure our characters, but also make sure we're all okay with the decisions made. So that was hard.
Yeah.
That's
That's
a
a
great
good point.
point, because I actually think I thought I was
Yeah.
metagaming earlier on, because I was like, I don't trust Mark. I don't trust his
No.
NPCs. No, none of them. They're all lying to us. He's,
Mhm.
you know, like, I think that was me coming in, like, expecting Mark
Yeah.
to have all these twists and turns, because I've only heard the bad stuff that happened to Eve on Instagram. So
Yeah.
There's a lot
learning
of
to
drama.
let Ren trust, but also learning that Mark also plays really good NPCs that are really,
Really
like, you
good.
can trust
And-
them.
And people who surprise you, you're like, oh wow, they're actually really great, and
Deep.
they are super supportive, and yeah, people you
Mhm.
don't expect to.
That was tough for
trust.
me
They're
early
actually
on.
nice people. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good too.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Mark, last question for you. Is there any, this is from Yona, is there any NPC you want to bring out of this campaign into future settings, future games, and one-shots that you might play in? So either like you playing them maybe as a player or in campaign 2.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, everyone who knows kind of Death, he has, like, a story that goes beyond this game.
Mhm.
So, he may or may not show up in the future at some point in another campaign, because he is... We'll see.
I want him to show up.
He is like a player in other campaigns we've done, so there's a chance he could at least be heard of, even like in a reference.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, I think for the most part these character stories are told, and I feel pretty at peace with them. So if none of them ever show up again, I'm okay with that. If they do make reference again or come back, that'd be cool too. But I think this was intended to be a pretty isolated story, and very well could be. So we'll see.
Jim said Rachel just wants to play Where's Waldo with Death.
True.
Of course, yes. More clips. Is that guy dead? Is that guy dead?
What is he? Where is he?
That's actually an interesting question, Mark. So we played the one shot at GaryCon
Mhm.
that you said is canon. So there are characters that are like Dream World or like, you know, had thoughts of. Because or some of us would have remembered. Did any of us, would we have maybe like heard similar aspects of that in the worlds that we're in?
For what happened with the GaryCon one shot, no. You have not heard of that in your world, no.
Not of that event, but like gods that maybe someone in that one were
Well-
talking about or stuff like that. Like, would the world that Renan and Karis are in, does that relate to any of the knowledge that they
Oh,
might
the
have like
new- the new
overheard
fantasy
from
world,
other
yeah.
players? Is what I'm saying.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question, but
He's asking if there's lore about Death in the new world, but I
Well,
like that.
No,
Karis
no,
is
I'm
right.
asking. So when we had the one shot, for example, Renan found out about Eve's god, or
Okay.
other things like that, or like other characters and like things that they're related to.
Mhm.
Anything that might have been in campaign. Would they have like in their research heard of like those gods and things like that in their worlds, or is this a separate world that's different from some of those main stuff?
But
I
just
don't
for
even know what world
example,
we're on.
your Eve connection to the one shot at GaryCon, her talking about her deity to Renan, in the tower that was. In your studies now, in your world that you're in, Renan, you would know of that deity. Like it's connected. So so yeah, it's
That's what I
definitely like this is a piece of my grander world.
Yeah.
And this is a
Cool.
piece that is part of my grander world that campaign 2 will take place in, and just like it's all kind of one piece in this story I've been telling over the past 10
Then
years in my
10.
D&D games. So
Dang.
Oh, fun.
it's not like a isolated thing like I led Rachel to believe at the start of it, where it's like a brand new thing. I'm not connected at all. It's definitely part of the
Well,
whole
I should believe
grander
that,
scheme.
yeah.
So
he's so
fun.
good at lying.
About
He
D&D.
does- about D&D. Yeah, we always joke that he's allowed to gaslight me in D&D. That is the only time. But
So good.
yeah, no, I
Cool.
really did think that it was separated for a long time. He would like you'd be like, I'm just tired of my world. I just don't like it anymore. And you like make comments like that. All right, and last question, Mike. You asked it. It's for the players.
That's
What was
me.
one of your character's biggest regrets, if any? And if you feel like you already answered it, that's okay. You can just say I already answered it, and we can move on.
Zilla. That's really big for him. Because I think Brennan really took an older brothership to Karis and was like, I hate to say absentee parent. That's why I keep on saying brother, or like, because it's less than a mentor, but like more than a friend. So I think he really took it under his belt to be like, well, when Rodden's not there, or when Samuel can't be around, or when now that Zilla's gone, it's like until you have become like exactly who you are in life, an adult, and you figure that out, like he just couldn't let that go. So that was really tough because when Rodden was around, there's a lot of like, okay, now I can be me and like live my life. And then I think he was expecting more of that with Zilla. So that was tough. And then the trackers, I think knowing that was kind of part of that was his fault really stung with him for a long time. So I think that's kind of what is actually the tracker thing that kind of made me develop the whole like Beacon 2. Like he wants to have a place that people can go to be healed and make sure like death doesn't have to come too early for people when it doesn't have to. So
Cool.
So you're
Kelly,
first.
did you have one?
I'm sorry.
Me?
I'm still thinking, yeah.
Well, it's funny because when I made Karis, she's so young and optimistic and excited about a new possibility of having magic. I remember, I think there was like a character form I filled out being like, dude, what's your character's biggest regret? I was like, she has none. Like, she doesn't have any regrets. She's just excited.
Did you have any at 17? I don't know if you
do you? Yeah, not really. So, yeah, I think a lot of times, though, I don't think I think her biggest regret was Zilla, for sure. Before that, but that was late campaign. I think before that, though, I think basically anytime there was a failure was kind of a new regret for her, because I think she really thought, like, she was kind of like Zilla, where Zilla's like, we'll just go do this and then it'll work out and then everyone will be happy. It'll be great. And like, she would always like talk like that in the beginning and then realize that's not how life is. Yeah. And would realize, no, life is not like that. It is way more complicated and failure is a big part of learning. So I think a lot of the failures she had were big regrets. A lot of times people were hurt because of them, so anytime Samo was in danger, that was like a huge regret for her. Rodden, she felt like Rodden was her biggest regret for most of the campaign. It's like she felt like she could never step up fully to help him. She always hesitated because she was scared to hurt him. So that was her big regret for most of the campaign before Zilla. But she got him, so it's okay now.
Yes.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the campaign it was like almost being too distrustful and like cynical and stuff, and then sort of like pushing people away and like potential allies away because of that. So like sort of realizing that. And I think a little bit later, like middle to later the campaign, it was like I think that she would regret not maybe trying to reconnect with like I think she genuinely thought that she was like doing her family a favor by staying away because she had like a bad reputation, but maybe like not establishing those relationships. So then when she tried to say this big life-altering news, it was like, well, obviously it didn't drop well because they didn't have that like prior relationship. So maybe like not connecting with people ended up being to their detriment and not helping them. And so maybe like I think she thought that it would be helpful for her to just stay away and not even be involved and just keep herself out of it, but then later ended up being like a problem where it would have been more helpful to have those like relationships set, and then you could deliver the life-altering big news. So yeah, and I don't know if it's a regret like in epilogue time, because like obviously she got to like reestablish connections and stuff, but like I think at the end of the game it for sure was.
Awesome. Well, that is most of the questions. There's a few we didn't get to, but we are running late. But they were all really good questions. I love thinking about stuff and hearing everybody's thoughts outside the box. So thank you, everyone, for submitting such good, thoughtful questions.
Really,
I love that this meant so important to all four of us. There wasn't like a person that's like, yeah, no, I'm just glad to be here. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, no, I think everyone really got invested, and this means a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, I think
this game definitely something special.
This game has changed my life. So I really am grateful for that.
Same.
But yeah, thank you everybody who submitted questions, and really appreciate that you hanging out with all of us. We do have a special announcement we'd like to share real quick, as this is the end of this campaign, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to play D&D anymore, as we're preparing a campaign 2, and I do have the trailer or the intro video prepared. Maybe I'll make some edits later, but this is what I got right now. I got the intro video for campaign 2 that I'm going to preview and show everybody right now.
I've seen it.
So if players want to see it, pull up the stream so you can watch it. But this is the campaign 2 trailer that we're about to play. So you guys can get hyped for that and look forward to that coming in 2023 once I've had a sufficient break and time to prepare. So
What?
so this is the intro.
January 2nd.
We'll be back shortly after the intro. So there it is, the campaign 2 intro. Mystical Mishaps is our campaign 2 name. Mystical Babies, yes. So that's
Hopefully
what
we'll roll better at the beginning. It'll be good.
It's definitely going to be more of a fantasy setting world. It's going to be pretty crazy, I can guarantee that. And there will be some chat interaction as well, ways to have the chat interact with the world and make things happen. We'll see. Sepulchre's been kind of fun to mess around with to see how that kind of fits in. This will be similar, different things will happen, but like it's gonna have same kind of chat interaction abilities that are there.
Fun.
Just different ways that it
What
happens.
says spawn monster?
Spawn monster, yes. So of course. But got some plans. It's gonna feel kind of fantasy Victorian horror feel. That's kind of the vibe I'm going for. And yes, we get to have a 4th player as our good friend Sultan Ash is joining us to the table. So pretty excited for that. Gonna try some new things.
I'm so excited.
I may do a streamed one shot at some point to test something out for campaign 2 on the channel. So we'll see if that works out. So you can look forward to that. But yes, Mystical Mishaps. That is
Mystical Mishaps.
that is the campaign
If you
name.
can say that a little better, please.
And we have our 3 returning players plus 1 more. So we look forward to that. Next year it will be coming. More details will come as I feel like I am sufficiently rested and prepared for what I'm about to embark on, because this is one of the most scary large projects I've ever tried to do.
You're gonna do amazing.
I've planned a lot into this, so we'll see how I do balancing
So
this.
excited. I love that you're doing this smartly and have a self-contained one and a larger. When I went, I'm going to go all out, and then this one's going to be a little bit more contained.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very excited to have the 4 players I will be having, and chat being
Awesome.
able to interact with the world as well and kind of play a factor into the world. So look forward to that next year. But again, this is a celebration of our last night, even though I changed my light colors to the pink color because transition. This is a celebration, though, of Beacon's Aura and the fun that we had over the past almost 2.5 years with that game. The amazing characters, all of you being amazing. We really are so grateful to each of you. As we said, you've changed our lives from this. You've made huge impacts on us, being supports and showing your love and kindness to us over the years. And I don't know, I'm just so grateful for each of you. Again, it helped me grow as a person, I think, to be more outgoing and be more open with people. So definitely grateful to all of you. And especially grateful to, there's so many people who did art of it as well, who are gifted with their art. So I thought it'd be a nice way, and Rachel kind of thought this would be a nice way to send off this, is by showcasing the art that we've gotten over the years and just kind of letting that play out as we end stream and say goodbye to these characters. So that's what we're going to end with tonight, is the character art that we've had, the art from the sessions. But we all love you very much. Thank you so much for this. We'll see you around. Join our Discord if you would like to stay updated on any of the information that's going on, Campaign 2 things, whatever we're doing, projects, other people who are amazing. Check it out there. But yes, once again, thank you so much, and we love you all. Enjoy the art.
Bye.